set up. Almost done.
Order, Madam Speaker.
May we take this moment for a silent prayer and meditation. Honorable members, you are reminded that this virtual sitting will be conducted in terms of the rules for virtual meetings read with our existing standing rules, in terms of Rule 6 of the rules for virtual meetings. The quorum requirement for virtual sittings of the House are provided for in the Constitution and the standing rules of the KZN Legislature. Standing Rule 44 of the standing rules provides as follows: at least 1/3 of all the members of the legislature must be present to constitute a plenary meeting of the legislature. The rules for virtual meetings also define present as follows. Present means the attendance of a member in a virtual meeting by electronic means in a manner that allows the member to join and participate in the meeting. The Secretary has confirmed that we have the required 1/3 of members present in order to commence with the virtual sitting. The sitting is therefore properly constituted. We will now proceed with the rest of the matters on the order paper. I think I have a little bit of a challenge, Secretary, with the light. I think you need to attend to it. Honorable members, apologies for that. Let's go to apologies that have been tabled. The first apology is the one from the Honorable Premier S. Zigalala, who has requested to be excused at 12 since he has to attend another engagement that could not be postponed. We all know that there is another sitting today that is taking place at the National Parliament, a joint sitting, together with Honorable Ndube Ncube, MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs. They will leave the sitting of today early. Also, Honorable NM Khoza, MEC for Social Development, will also leave with them for that pressing engagement at the National Parliament. Honorable M. Govender will leave for a medical appointment at 10:30, but will rejoin the House at 12:30. Honorable members of the EFF caucus, which is Honorable Khoza, AV, Twala, MW, Mtetwa, SH, Seja, LG, Mjali, GF, Mpaipeli, NL, Dlamini, NL, are on organizational work. You are also, honorable members, still reminded that the Deputy Speaker is not with us due to ill health, and Honorable PP Herricks is still on leave. These apologies were tabled last month. We will keep on reminding you. I also want to take this opportunity. Another apology for early departure is Honorable MPP Zungu, who has to attend a memorial service at Mandeni. Will leave the sitting early. I want to take this opportunity to wish Honorable El Seja a happy birthday in advance on the 16th of October. We wish him well. Honorable members of this House, I also want to announce to you that Honorable Chairperson of SCOPA, Honorable M. Govender, was elected to serve in the Executive Committee of the Association of Public Accounts, APEC. We must congratulate her and also mention that some of her responsibilities include attending APEC meetings and programs within South Africa and sometimes outside South Africa. On behalf of the legislature, let us congratulate the Honorable Governor, knowing full well that she will serve there on behalf of the House, and we pledge as the office of the Speaker on your behalf to support her in every task that she will need support on. Represent as well, Honorable Governor. Honorable members, you are reminded that at the adjournment of today's sitting, there will be a briefing by the FFC, and you are requested to remain logged into Microsoft Teams for that briefing. Honorable members, can we go to the next item, announcements or reports by the Premier? Honorable members of the EXCO.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm not sure whether I'm audible. Honorable Speaker.
Can you attend to the sound?
I'm not sure whether my sound is audible. I'm audible or not. Honorable Speaker.
Premier, can you unmute your mic, please?
We can hear the
Premier, you are muted.
No,
unmute your mic, please.
We can hear, Speaker.
We can't hear because the Premier is on mute if you look there. The mic is muted, Honorable Premier.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I'm not sure whether there's an echo. I don't know if there are other members. You can mute, please. Hello?
Yes, Premier.
Well, Honorable Speaker, let's take this opportunity to extend our greetings to you, Honorable Speaker, the Executive Council, Honorable in the House. The first announcement around the continuing steady decline in COVID-19 infection. The province continues to observe a decline in numbers of COVID-19 infection. Today, the province has registered 154 cases. The government remains concerned, of course, about the deaths that is due to COVID-19. While the trend is China welcome news, government will remain on full alert. We will not allow this drop in infection numbers to lure us into a false sense of accomplishment and complacent. We remain vigilant. We reiterate our message that COVID-19 will be conquered through behavioral change. Let us continue to wear our mask, sanitize, and practice social distancing at all times, and observe quarantine orders where necessary. Honorable Speaker, we also wish to express our condolences to the bereaved Mdali family. As the government, we have, and the people of KwaZulu-Natal are still reeling from a very traumatic tragedy involving a car crash which claimed the lives of 13 members of the Mdali family. There's no words that can describe how we feel when one thinks of the loss endured by the relatives, friends of the family, but as well as the community of Kilmun in Dr. Nkosazane Dlamini Zuma municipality. We extend our sincere condolences on behalf of the province and the people of the country. Since the commencement of level 1, we have lost over 106 people on the roads. The trend is that the crashes have increased as we scaled to lower level. There have been 77 car accidents reported since the 21st of September to date. We continue to ensure that we create awareness but ensure enforcement of the law in all of our roads. We send our condolences. The funeral of family members who passed on will be on this coming Saturday. Honorable Speaker and honorable members of the House, as KwaZulu-Natal, we await the presentation of the country's recovery and economic growth plan that will be presented this afternoon by His Excellency, the President of the Republic, Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, during the joint sitting of both houses of Parliament. COVID-19 emerged as the health crisis but mutated into an economic crisis. We are now earnestly commencing with the rebuilding process, and we fully understand the magnitude of the task that lies ahead. We must all gear ourselves to rebuild and restructure the economy as if we are emerging from a major war. We have no doubt that the President will present an impactful, innovative, and ambitious plan to restructure and build an inclusive economy that will also create jobs. Sooner, Honorable Speaker, we will, as the Executive Council of the province, present the provincial economic restructuring and recovery plan of the economy in KwaZulu-Natal. Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I thank you.
Honorable Premier, now we'll go to item 5. There are no recorded tablings that have been made, but I will also give this opportunity for anyone that may want to make a tabling in the House. Seeing that there is none, We'll move to the next order. Formal motions or notices by the Chief Whip. Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there are no formal motions and notices from our side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Whip. We will move to the orders of the day. But before we move there, I want to remind and emphasize that we are carrying on this sitting under all the regulations and health protocols regarding to COVID-19. At the regulated intervals for sanitization, the venue will be sanitized, and the service officers are required to sanitize the mask whenever they are passing it on to the next speaker, especially because you are wearing gloves. Ensure that you handle the mic through a sanitized, whether it's something that is sanitized, not by your gloves when you are giving it to the next member, so that we do not in any way pose a risk to members of spreading the virus that we might be coming with from home. There are intervals of 2 hours, I so believe, where we need to sanitize the House, honorable members. I apologize for not announcing that earlier on the announcement, so that members do not rise and raise that in the House. We will do so. Honorable members, we are now going to orders of the day. And the first order will be on the report by the MEC for Transport and Community Safety on the plans and progress by the KZN provincial government with regard to investment in public transport infrastructure, as well as on the work done with the taxi industry to transform the industry by supporting initiatives that will ensure safety, cleanliness, and provision of quality services within the industry. We will give firstly to the MEC.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker in absentia, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, members of Executive, honorable members of the House. Speaker, allow me to rise and table this report as directed by this House. This report comes at an opportune time when, as a country, we are busy rolling out October Transport Month program. We consider it appropriate for this House to choose this topic, especially to sharply focus on the public transport sector as one of the most important sectors in the lives of ordinary people, as it is a backbone of our economy. This sector, honorable members, has been central in changing the lives of the people in the past 26 years of our freedom and democracy, and has been mainly about restoring dignity of people who were previously marginalized and deprived of important integration to development and access to important socio-economic opportunities. As part of this report, we will highlight the key milestones and outline future plans aimed at improving public transport infrastructure. We will also reflect on the work that has been done to transform the taxi industry whilst building a taxi industry that adheres to commuters' safely and customer care principles. The democratic government inherited a public transport infrastructure that only catered for the minority, and mainly in the urban areas. This deliberate apartheid spatial planning deprived the majority of Africans, mainly Black people an opportunity to participate in the economy and thus depriving them of a dignified service. Equally, the public transport system was fragmented and did not consider the developmental trajectory the democratic government was pursuing. That is why the African National Congress Manifesto in 1994 made commitment to directly confront these challenges head-on. It made the following observation and commitment, I quote, to eradicate the serious problem caused by apartheid, South Africa needs a government with a political will to meet the challenge, a government that understands the need of the future because it understands the neglect and divisions of the past. We need a government that puts people first, close quote. Indeed, we are proud to report that 26 years later, we have lived up to this commitment and continue to transform the lives of our people whilst restoring their dignity. Informed by these historic facts, the government of the day is hard at work and investing on much-needed public transport infrastructure as part of achieving holistic transformation and redressing the imbalances of the past. The number of legislations that has been promulgated, policies that have been approved, are a living testimony and demonstration of a political will to inject tangible changes in the public transport infrastructure delivery and in improving state of the taxi industry as the biggest commuter of working class citizens of this country. The plans that are currently in place also seek to respond to the commitment made by the Provincial Growth and Development Strategy and indeed the National Development Plan. Chairperson and Honourable Speaker, over the years, the Department of Transport, working with other state agencies, has built a number of catalytic public transport infrastructure projects. These include all-weather public transport facilities, public transport networks, public transport sector, and integrated public transport plans. Millions of rands, skills development, job creation, economic transformation, and empowerment of local entrepreneurs has been central in our plans. Moving forward, our focus will be on integrated public transport plans, which will integrate all modes of transport. However, this will be informed by the unique needs of district municipalities. This will also be aligned with the district development model to ensure that there is one plan per district that has been agreed to by all stakeholders. Madam Speaker, public transport facilities are very important structures that have improved the face of public transport in this province. Today, through the work that has been done, people are able to access public transport protected from the ever-changing weather conditions. They are now able to access shops and taxi association offices within the vicinity. They are now protected from all forms of criminality that would target public transport commuters because previously there was no dedicated, decent place to shelter our people. We have done this understanding the broader need to improve public transport in the province, even though some falls within the mandate of municipalities. We have had to review the pace of contracting these facilities and align them with the development and integrated public transport plans to make sure that we are futuristic and to align with the development master plan that have been designed by different municipalities. Honourable Speaker, The 9th of July 2020 marked the beginning of the digital revolution as inspired by first president of our democratic South Africa, Dr. Nelson Mandela, who once remarked, open quote, "It always seems impossible until it is done," close quote. For the first time, communities in Pietermaritzburg who have always battled to access internet were afforded access to free Wi-Fi through the launch of the John Langalibalele Dube broadband hindsight. The Msunduzi taxi rank has been equipped with high-speed Wi-Fi access points designed to handle large volumes and traffic, especially for areas like the taxi rank. This allows for introduction of smart surveillance as well as new business processes that will revolutionize the taxi industry as well as the informal traders that currently do business within the rank facilities. With criminals getting smarter and using technology to lure young, unexpected women by misrepresenting themselves as Uber drivers and taking advantage of a solution where often young women find themselves stranded without access to data, this will enable them to make that contact that can save them and save their lives. This facility is available to thousands of commuters that pass the rank daily. Plans are in place to roll out free Wi-Fi in other taxi ranks across our province. Among some of the public transport facilities completed in few years include Ulundi facility, which was constructed at a value of 30 million, KwaNongoma public taxi facilities, which was valued to 22 million, Mondo transport facilities, which was constructed at a value of 20 million, though there are still some challenges on the usage of the taxi rank. We are still engaging with the Taxi Association in Mondo to try and resolve the challenges that they are raising. KwaMaphumulo public transport facilities, which was valued at 17 million, Escort intermodal facility, which was valued to 82 million, Umzimkulu public transport facility, which is valued at 85 million. What is ironic and surprising on this one is that this tender was awarded to a lady, and I'm proud to report that the work is still underway, but the lady is capable of doing the work, and we are happy that the department is indeed empowering some of our women in our province. Go Durban and Msunduzi Integrated Public Transport Network. Madam Speaker, both eThekwini, Go Durban and Msunduzi Integrated Public Transport Network are catalytic transport infrastructure projects that are aimed at changing the face of public transport in the province. The implementation of the integrated rapid public transport network in these two cities was targeted to unlock the economic potential and provide strategic links across the communities. The Go Durban project, despite challenges that it has, but it is still underway. The project links Pinetown, Claremont, Newland, Kwamashu, and Umhlanga. The first corridor, which is C3, is ready to be commissioned. Infrastructure is at advanced stages on C9 and C1 corridors. As part of October Transport Month activities, the members of executive and myself, we will be, and Honorable Mayor of eThekwini, we will be visiting doing Siyahlola project tomorrow morning so that we see for ourselves the development of those projects. Honorable members, Madam Speaker, the department is also working together with the Department of ATIA to conduct a feasibility study for public transport link between the King Shaka International Airport, eThekwini, and Pietermaritzburg. This we do in order for us to leverage and move the vehicles that are using the roads to a possibility of the railway line, so that we are able firstly to deal and decrease the carnages that are taking place in our roads. And if we do this, everybody that is a business person will participate in this one, including taxi people that are owning taxis. Madam Speaker, the provincial government as directed by Premier of KwaZulu-Natal in his State of Province address, remains committed in continuing with the upgrade of Itindale Road in Umsunduzi. Despite the challenges with the implementation of IRPTN and the subsequent decision by National to withhold the grant for the next 3 years, discussions between the city and the department are progressing very well. The city is currently utilizing the rollout of 94 million to continue with the work on the ground. However, there is an envisaged shortfall of 150 million, which is being discussed currently. The team from eThekwini has been requested together, because of their experience, to assist the Pietermaritzburg so that they would also be able to deal with the challenges on that town. Provincial public transport and freight transport framework. Madam Speaker, this government will continue to advocate for integration in public transport. As I have previously stated, this must consider future developments and provide long-term solutions. Having realized the challenges with the implementation of IPTN, it was clear that such projects were designed for urban location. These plans are catering for needs and dynamics of district municipality and their future developmental needs. They will also fit onto the district development model. Building a stable, transformed, and clean taxi industry. Chairperson and Madam Speaker and the House, the taxi industry is the major commuter public transport system in the province. The 2013 National Household Travel Survey found that 69% share of the public transport users use taxis in the country. The users are mainly those who have no other alternative forms of public transport. Other studies has revealed state that the taxi industry generates 50 billion rand in the economy per annum. From this background, the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Government of Transport has seen it imperative that the department must work in partnership with the taxi industry, Santaco, in order for us to improve our working relationship. Hence, we have signed the Memorandum of Understanding with Santaco as a structure. The formation of this partnership has resulted in identification of intervention and implementation that are more relevant to take the industry forward, and which ensures that the taxi industry is well regulated, safe, provides quality service, complies with government regulations, and becomes a preferred mode of transport service to the people of KwaZulu-Natal. In terms of promoting safety in our roads, this objective is implemented through a program called Hlogomela. It addresses, amongst other things, road safety issues, ensuring all minibus taxis are checked before they depart from the rank, and they are being stopped all the way before they get to the destination. Furthermore, the program ensures good driver conduct, and feedback is solicited from commuters, thus ensuring that the journey paid for is safe and professional. We also want to promote the department want to promote professionalism in the industry and good quality service that is rendered to the public. In terms of training of the drivers, the training intervention range from empowering the industry to understand legislation, policies, business management, and financial management. Drivers were provided with training in customer care and road safety. Another key area for the department is developing a mechanism for formalizing and regulating the driving schools in our province. We are in discussion in order with the driving schools so that they are also of assistance to us in order for us to keep improving driving skills for people that are driving taxis and trucks in KZN. Peace and stability in the taxi industry. Madam Speaker, all the above can be achieved if there is peace and stability in the taxi industry. The department has approved more than 22,000 operating licenses as part of regulating the taxi industry. We have opened new offices in some of the towns, and we want to mention some few towns so that honorable members will guide in their constituency people that are still wanting to go and register their taxi. And those are in Ladysmith, Port Shepstone, Mpangeni, and Bazwan. We are also pleased to report that our satellite offices in eThekwini has also been opened. The office will service almost half of the industry in the province, servicing eThekwini Metro, Ilembe District, and other areas around eThekwini. There are a few areas where we are currently making interventions, mainly in Richards Bay, Newcastle, Umzinyati, eThekwini. There seems to be a resurgence of killings as well as in Gwanongoma. But we are paying much attention to all these areas. Our integrated strategy involves beefing up law enforcement agencies in affected areas. Recently, 5 officials were arrested and charged with 252 counts. And those officials are those that were selling permits to some of the taxi owners. And we, in the attempt to root out corruption in the department, we have arrested those, and we believe that these 5 are not the only ones that were involved. But we do also want to continue and get deeper to those taxi people that have been sold permits. It's cut.
The debate is not today. Thank you, Honorable MEC, Transport and Community Safety. Now we'll move to the next order, which is a debate on the report that was tabled by the MEC for Transport and Community Safety on the plans and progress towards scaling up the network of Tutuzela care centers and other victim empowerment centers for a more effective response to incidents of violent sexual acts against women and children, reduction of victimization, and improved conviction rates and conclusion of cases. To start the debate for 9 minutes, we have Honorable GN Ntombela of the ANC, which I believe is coming through the virtual connection. Honorable GN Ntombela for 9 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I greet you all in the name of the African National Congress. It is a great honor for me to be part of this critical debate. I hold in esteem the effort and confidence put beforehand by this glorious movement. As we are all in the month of October, the World Health Organization recognizes October 17, 2020 as World Trauma Day, where trauma is a major cause of death and disability across the world. The commemoration of World Trauma Day emphasizes the importance of saving and protecting a life during the most critical moments and preparing and applying critical measures to deal with and avoid trauma fatalities. Honorable Speaker, the African National Congress that we come from is an organization which has values, beliefs in equality, and prioritizes safety in all of its citizens, as evident in the manifesto as it talks about building safer communities. Honorable Speaker, it is worth noting that when it comes to gender-based violence, the ANC has a clear vision and position of supporting. Therefore, I am appealing to victims that whenever violence takes place, the victim must be courageous and report the perpetrators. The phenomenon of violence against men and women remains an enormous threat in our societies. It is considerable, significant in societies dependent on inequalities, discrimination, and strategies to battle violence have been initiated. Services have been provided for victims of violence. Shelters have been built and laws have been established to protect men and women against violence. Many victims have been quiet after being abused due to the fearing of their lives or because of stigma. Majority of victims get stigmatized after disclosing the suffering they have been through. Many tolerated the abuse because they had nowhere else to go and had no means of survival after leaving the perpetrator. Today, we are grateful to the ANC-led government, which introduced the concept of Tutuzela centers, ensuring that after an ordeal, the victim had experienced, he or she is provided with a shelter where there is support in all forms, such as psychosocial support. Honorable Speaker, Tutuzela Care Centers, TCCs, is designated forensic and medical service available for rape survivors as an emergency service in 72 hours immediately after rape. They are a critical part of South Africa's anti-rape strategy aiming to diminish secondary victimization and build a case ready for successful prosecution. At the center or unit, a counselor will be there to inform the victim about the services offered and the practice that must be followed by doctors, nurses, and police. Thereupon, the victims are given emotional support and same to the victims' next of kin. The TCC project is driven by the NPA's Sexual Offences and Community Affairs Unit, SOCA, in association with different departments and benefactors as a response to dire requirement for an incorporated strategy for prevention, response, and support for assault victims. Since the foundation, the SOCA unit has been attempting to grow best practices and policies that try to annihilate victimization of women, men, and children while improving prosecution, especially of sexual offenses, child support, child justice, and domestic violence, just to mention a few. Currently, we have got 9 TCCs in our province. It is worth noting that in some of the TCC really requires intervention as they have various challenges, such as the shortages of psychologists to deal specifically with clinical forensic matters. The issue of functional space is sometimes an issue. The availability of doctors skilled in clinical forensic medicine after hours in the rural TCCs is a challenge. However, moving forward as an intervention, recognition of forensic nurses will contribute positively to addressing GBV in the province. Permanent appointment of social workers at TCCs as per volume of cases seen at each TCC, and the importance of KwaZulu-Natal having its own DNA analysis lab and the delays in obtaining DNA reports. I just think that the MEC for Health can assist in this regard, the regard of the shortage of labs in KwaZulu-Natal. Accordingly, Honorable Speaker, when I analyze the progress on the total sexual offences, namely rape, sexual assault, attempted sexual offences and contact sexual offences in KwaZulu-Natal, there has been a decline of 40.2% between April to June in 2020-2021, as per SAPS first quarter crime statistics 2020-2021. The victim empowerment centers comes in many forms, which are mainly responsible for the promotion and supporting victims in the province. The role of this directorate is achieved through assessing the establishment of victim-friendly facilities, developing and promoting special support programs for victims, and initiating awareness campaigns for vulnerable groups. Similarly, shelters for abused women and men is a safe space for both men and women for a maximum of 6 months to allow them to undergo a therapeutic healing process and receive psychosocial support services from a professional social worker. These shelters provide for a referral to other helping resources, skills development and income generation, domestic reunification, support groups, spirituality, HIV and AIDS counseling and promotion of a healthy lifestyle, and rehabilitation of victims of gender-based violence. In terms of the spatial distribution of shelters for abuse, women currently there are 21 with a capacity of 319. Honorable Speaker, it is very important that when we are fighting the scourge of GBV, we clarify the issue that it is not only the women and LGBTIQ that are affected, as men are also abused. That is why the Department of Social Development in KwaZulu-Natal has established 2 shelters for men in eThekwini and Umgungundlovu who are victims for gender-based violence and in distress, which currently has a capacity of 26 people. We want to appreciate this work and call for more shelters that will cater for men. Honorable Speaker, identically white door centers play a crucial role in society as they serve sites that operate as localized reception assessment referral and are located close to communities. I wish members, if they can know these white doors in their constituencies. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, I would like to appreciate the progress made by the government as presented by the MEC for Transport and Community Safety and Liaison on the 18th of September 2020 in this House, which truly reflects the strides made and highlighted plans to be implemented moving forward, which will result in a low rate of sexual offences and GBV cases. Enough is enough. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Ntombela. The next speaker is the Chief Whip of the Official Opposition, Honorable M.B. Gwala.
Honorable Speaker and honorable members, Yanbingadele Kamende IFP, let me begin by commending the MEC for Community Safety and Liaison, Honorable Ntuli, for finally declaring that law enforcement agency threat GBV scourge as a priority crime. We applaud this integrated effort to curb the GBV in our province. As the IFP, we have been urging this department and to tackle gender-based violence and femicide scourge with agency it deserves, because it is well documented that KwaZulu-Natal is the GBV murder and crime capital in South Africa. History will judge our province unkindly and very harshly on how bad it has been treating its most vulnerable members, which is its children and women. As from today, we expect change. We expect to see the visibility of law enforcement officers to Tuzela Care Center services, shelters and white door centers in all communities in this province, providing excellent services to rape and GBV victims, because we continue to receive complaints on incompetency and carelessness of those tasked with dealing with GBV cases. We expect that calls and SMSs from victims of GBV will be attended to timelessly and speedily by police. It is very unfortunate that as we debating this report, a family in Bel Air questioned police for failing to intervene timelessly when their daughter, Letiwe Nkwanyana, reported death threats from her boyfriend before her disappearance. There has been many women and children who have lost their lives through the hands of men known to men. Just a few weeks ago, a woman and her child were found brutally killed and stuffed into a refuge bag in Wandengezi. A few days before this incident, a 4-year-old girl, Sanelisiwe Mhlongo from Tuzuma, lost her life in the hands of her teenage relative. 2 bodies of young women were found thrown in the bush next to Amashu Polyclinic. This was discovered while we were still shocked by discovery of the other 2 women who were also brutally killed and thrown on the side of the road at Eshobeni in Wambonambi. This daily butchering of women and children has to stop. We are tired of staging protests, writing pledges and statements, conferences, symposium, and debates on this issue when it is clear that ignoring GBV has been costly to our communities. What is needed is serious action and implementation of all these interventions being tabled before us today. And the MEC has just indicated that 8 provincial interventions that have been implemented in ensuring timeless attendance to newly reported GBV cases, including first responders to incident of crime in all police stations already, 24-hour standby detective on call to respond to GBV cases and suspect raid operations in all districts. The IFP in KwaZulu-Natal last week called for immediate suspension of a police officer suspected of rape a victim in a police station. The IFP has reliably learned that the police officer who is stationed at Wamakuta police station south of Durban is being investigated by IPID on the rape allegation. What is surprising is that 2 years ago, the same police suspect committed the same crime, but senior officers put the matter under the carpet. Why was the first reported case against this police was hidden? We want the raid operations plan of arresting suspect to start in Wamakuta police station if the MEC is serious about fighting GBV in this province. MEC Ntuli should ensure that the law harshly deal with police officers who commit all forms of secondary victimization to rape victims. Routine law enforcement officers are the reason why rape victims are not reporting rape and other GBV cases to SAPS as they should, because there are many criminals hiding behind blue uniform who cannot be trusted. With the daily increase in number of women and children being raped, killed and molested, we want disciplined and honest police officers who are true to the calling of protecting every citizen. The MEC promised many GBV interventions. However, we want to know where was the 24-hour standby detective on call response to gender-based violence in Wamakuta when this police officer colleague was committing this crime. Angithi ngiyabuya Somlo. Yeah, ngiyabuya.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next member for 5 minutes is Honorable S. Hussein of the DA, who will be joining us on the virtual platform. Honorable S. Hussein.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate the initiative by the MEC and welcome the report, together with a number of positive interventions in respect of gender-based violence in our province and our country. We have had many debates and discussions in this House on gender-based violence. All of us agree that gender-based violence has reached unprecedented levels in our country. For many years now, we have neglected to respond sufficiently to the scourge, to the extent that gender-based violence in South Africa has now grabbed the attention of the world. I wish to inform this House, in a recently published article in Forbes Women magazine, South Africa is rated #1 in the world as one of 20 dangerous places for women travelers. Although the article recognizes the situation is slowly improving, it considers our country as the world's worst world for violence against women. We also score poorly on street safety, and our historical record of culture of violence and cruelty towards women has now gained international status. In South Africa, it seems that gender-based violence has become a commonplace. Much of this has to do with our cultures and upbringings, together with the failure by our government to take stern action against those who are responsible for protecting women in society. Therefore, Madam Speaker, it is vital when government compiles a turnaround plan that best practices from all around the world are taken into account. Our governments are well known for writing up the most brilliant plans, but fail on implementation. If we are genuinely serious about addressing this category of crime, we would have declared this priority crime many, many years ago. Unfortunately, the scourge has only been escalated when women in their millions began raising their voices, calling for more government intervention. It is only then that government began taking notice and responded with a variety of interventions. While it is not an ideal situation, I must recognize in fairness that there has been a number of interventions to respond accordingly, and there has been some progress. But we have to do much more to turn around a situation that has grown in significance over a number of decades in our society, and it has to start with getting the basics right. Honourable Speaker, the report by the MEC makes reference to a number of interventions which we must welcome. No doubt, if some of these interventions are implemented properly, they will go a long way in contributing towards a fight against gender-based violence. I want to make a genuine and sincere appeal to the MEC to ensure that these interventions are properly implemented and monitored, and that regular oversight is conducted. We must take strong action against officials who fail to implement these measures. If we fail to do so, then these interventions will remain what they are, a plan with no action, like many other government interventions. Many of these plans fail because they are deeply reliant on poorly trained civil servants to implement them. And far too often, we have seen that these plans fail because there are no consequences for those whose job it is to implement them. For example, this province has 8 Tutuzela centers advertised on the government's website. In order to ensure the MEC's plans work, and you have to ensure that every person linked to the strategy performs at 100%. So I conducted my own exercise and contacted all 8 Tutuzela centers to ensure that they are open 24 hours and, most importantly, that the calls are answered. If you call the R.K. Khan's hospital, nobody answers the phone. If you call the Impangeni Center, it rings and goes into voicemail. The one in PMB says the subscriber you have dialed is not available right now. The advertised number in Nilembe does not exist. The Mahatma Gandhi Center goes unanswered for hours. The only centers that you can get through to is Amlazi and Ugu. So if any women in this province needed emergency assistance, it does not appear that the Tutuzela centers are the ones they should call. But if you read the report by the MEC, a very glowing picture emerges, which is far from the reality on the ground. This is why I say, Speaker, that if we can have the best plans in the world, but does it work in reality, on the ground where it really matters? I want to encourage the MEC to call these care centers himself and see how many of them he can get through to. And if he takes no action against these officials, then we are all simply wasting our time in these debates. Thank you.
For 6 minutes is Honorable A.B. Khoza of the EFF. We have received an apology earlier on. So we will move. To Honorable VR Lota of the NFP for 2 minutes.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, the NFP, as the NFP, we acknowledge and certainly with the report by the MEC on Tutuzela centers. Nevertheless, gender-based violence and all kinds of crime has been on the rise since the commencement of the financial year. GBV alone had 3,500 cases reported, 3,330 protection orders served, and 1,494 suspects arrested during the first quarter of the current financial year. Njengalapha nje kwavimba ukhala eBergville okwabulawa khona uthisha ekhulelwe enezinyanga eziwu-8 washiswa. Kodwa sikubongayo ukuthi amaphoyisa ababamba ababopha bakuyi-trial njengamanje. As the citizen of South Africa, we demand that our human rights being protected and to feel safe in our communities, in our homes. 3,500 cases correlated to GBV alone is outrageous. Our women and children are the future of this nation, and they should always feel safe and protected. Honorable Speaker, as the NFP, we support the implementation and provision of services to help mitigate this issue of GBV and all kinds of crimes. However, the GBV call center and SMS line is not enough to fight this scourge. As NFP, we request there should be a developed application specifically built for the purpose of helping and pinpointing any ongoing violence. Thank you.
The next speaker for 8 minutes is Honorable ZL.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Premier, honorable members, mphakathi kwelikamthaniya kwelembube ngiyabingelela. Ngisukuma ngenhliziyo ebuhlungu evuza igazi ngenxa yezenzo zamanye amadoda. Izandla zamadoda amanye zigcwele igazi ngenxa yokubulawa kwabantwana nabantu besifazane kuleli likamthaniya. Sikhuluma nje inhlolovo ithi kubulawa abantwana nabantu besifazane abathathu ihora nehora kuleli. Kuthiwa abantwana nabantu besifazane ababulawa ngabantu besilisa kuleli ngonyaka ka-2017 to 18 bangu-20,336. So uyabona ke ukuthi njengoba siku-2021 bangakanani. Uma uzwa lezi zibalo ungafunga ugomele ukuthi siyisizwe esikwi-civil war. Kanti cha, izibalo zabantwana nabantu besifazane ababulewe. Kungabe abantwana baseMzansi Afrika benzeni kumadoda kuleli? Kungabe omama base-South Africa benzeni kobaba bakuleli? Kungani uma kunempi ebonakalayo ukuthi ibhekiswe kubantwana nomama angabonakala amasosha azovikela abantwana kulempi? Kungani ukukhala kwabantwana eMzansi Afrika nomame kungazwakali na? Kanti lelizwe lalikhululelwa ukuthi kuzohlinzwa omama nabantwana na? Kungani singaziswanga ukuthi silwa umzabalazo nje khona uma selikhululiwe izwe kuzovele kubulawe kuhlinzwe abantwana nomama? Awu, lafa elihle kakhulu. Ngikhuluma ngoMinenhle Mhlongo oneminyaka 4 owadlwengulwa umalume wakhe. Ngikhuluma ngo-Erin King oneminyaka ewu-16 uXolile Dlamini obeneminyaka ewu14 abatholakala belahlwe ehlathini kwaMashu bayafihlwa namhlanje njengoba silapha. Imiphefumulo yabo ize iphumule ngoxolo. Umama nomntwana wakaMthembu abatholakala bebulewe bafakwa esikhwameni kwaDabeka. Ngikhuluma ngezinkulungwane nezinkulungwane zezisulu zodlame ezikhona kuleli. Kuzosala bani? Ubani ozokhulisa isizwe uma inzala abantu nezingane zabo zishabalala na? Namhlanje sikhuluma ngama-Thuthuzela centers nezindawo zokufihla abantwana nomama abahlaselwayo emakhaya bangaphephile. Yebo, uhulumeni kaKhongolose uyazama ukuhlangabezana nezisulu zokuhlukunyezwa. Someone must be held accountable for this genocide. Thomas Sankara once said, "The revolution and women's liberation go together." We do not talk of women's emancipation as an act of charity or out of the surge of human compassion. It is basic necessity for the revolution to triumph, close quote. Honorable Speaker, the President O.R. Tambo's message to women of South Africa on the day of the relaunch of the ANC Women's League that was held in Durban in 1990 said, I quote, "I'm asking you to take action to help ensure that the future of our country matches the aspirations for which our people and particularly our women have struggled for so long," close quote. I would therefore like to urge the progressive men and women of our great nation to never rest until these words of Comrade O.R. Tambo are fulfilled. What action are we going to take to deal with this genocide? Government have tried its best to deal with the scourge. We have Thuthuzela centers, which are in partnership with private donors and government under the leadership of the National Prosecuting Authorities, Sexual Offences and Communities Affairs. The centers are linked to police stations with clinics, hospitals, and the established sexual offences courts. The Thuthuzela Center's most important role is to support victims. Sinayo ePhoenix, eThekwini, kanti KwaZulu-Natal kunamanye awu7 asekhona. The philosophy of these centers is respect, comfort, restoration, restoring dignity and ensuring justice for children and women who are victims. Honorable Speaker, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa speaks about the Bill of Rights, which is a cornerstone of our democracy. It articulates the rights of all people in our country, particularly the rights of human dignity, equality, freedom. The state has a constitutional responsibility to respect, protect, promote, and fulfill the rights in the Bill of Rights. These rights highlight a national commitment to build a society that is free from all forms of violence and that respects, protects, and fulfills the human rights principle of bodily honor and autonomy. Government has a number of policies and legislation in place to respond to the killing of women and children by men. These policies still cannot protect them at home when all doors are closed and locked, where violence occurs in the hands of the people they trust the most. Thuthuzela centers must be available in all the areas within communities. All police stations must have these. The President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, calls this senseless killing of children and women a pandemic, which of course it is. This pandemic also seen an increased violence against LGBTQ plus community. The killing of people because of their sexual orientation is totally barbaric and unacceptable. Thuthuzela centers must be capacitated with enough security and competent staff complement to be able to effectively assist the victims. They must have social workers, psychologists, therapists, and all necessary skills that are needed to assist the victims. We do recognize the efforts, Honorable MEC, of those progressive men who work tirelessly to combat this pandemic, and we invite more men and women to join in the fight to protect our women and children. Siqinise ekuwineni amacala nokubopha ababulali nabadlwenguli. Courts must give at least minimum sentences to rape and murder accused instead of giving them bail. Phansi nokubulawa kwabantwana nabantu besifazane phansi. Together we can do more. Ngiyabonga.
The next speaker, 2 minutes, is is Honorable Estapur Rajbanzi of the MM, who will be joining us on the virtual platform. Honorable Estapur Rajbanzi, Mrs. Rajbanzi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable MEC Ntuli, for this report, which affects mainly women and children, as we see rising cases of violence against vulnerable persons, heightened during the recent lockdown and its consequences. Honorable members, Honorable Ntuli is always responsive, and I call him on various matters. Thank you, Honorable MEC. But let's be reminded, Honorable members, that though these Tutuzela centers, safe houses and shelters and wide door centers will assist on a daily basis to give hope to the helpless, these one-stop facilities are only a symptomatic but essential response to larger societal problems that we have. Honorable MEC, I brought a case recently of a Mrs. Miraj and her young daughter who did not receive assistance from the Phoenix Police for violence in a flat from the body corporate chairman. And in terms of violence against women, the former Ministry of Women and Children in 2013 stated that violence against women are committed purely on the fact that they are women. The affected family didn't even get a peace order granted this week from the Verulam Court, reference number H687/20, and are now living with friends in another flat. Honorable MEC, please get the relevant personnel to intervene, as the role of SAPS is essential to ensure that women and children do get these protection orders. So violence against women or men makes all vulnerable victims of their circumstances at some point in their lives, and government policy must be broadened to include all social ills. As much as I respect that rape is important, but there are many, many other social ills and forms of violence. Honorable MEC, the MF awaits more aggressive communication on these progressive developments in all media, on all media platforms, to bring about awareness on the facilities, where they are, the guidelines for access. And at another point, it would be really necessary for a report with statistics on the various forms of violence against women and more information on the 4 strategic objectives and pillars. Finally, community police fora and war rooms should be empowered through training to assist vulnerable women in our community. The MS supports this report. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker for 2 minutes is Honorable M.E. Pakati of the ATM.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, the ATM welcomes and supports the initiative of the department to give support to the victims of gender-based violence. However, Madam Speaker, kumele ngisho ukuthi le nkinga iyinkinga yethu sonke. Ngiphinde futhi ngicela amadoda ukuthi akasondele kakhulu ukufundisa nokuqondisa abafana abasakhula, ngoba inkinga esibhekene nazo ukuthi nathi madoda sesisonge izandla. Honorable Speaker, the services that are rendered in Tutuzela centers restores dignity and hope to the victims. We therefore, as ATM, support sicele Mphemba ukuthi uqhubeke wenze umsebenzi omuhle lo wenzayo, kodwa sifise ukuthi eindaweni zasemakhaya sibone izimoto zamaphoyisa zi-visible. Into eyenzekile kwaDabeka isithusile. Iyafisa ukuthi siyafisa ke Mphemba ukuthi usondelele ekuboneni ukuthi umsebenzi wenzeka ngendlela ekuyona. Siyazi ukuthi okunye kuyinkinga ongeke ukwazi wena ongenawo amandla ukuthi ungakwazi ukuthi uzixazulule. Kodwa siyacela ukuthi department yakho iqhubeke njalo ekutheni ikhulumisane nohulumeni wazo lonke ukuthi akhiwe ama-police station endaweni zasemakhaya nasey'ndaweni zasemalokishini. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is Honorable S.E. Manmele of the ACDP for 2 minutes. Honorable Manmele has indicated that he has connection problems. We are going to first check whether he managed to connect, but he has also sent through the speech. We will request a member of the minority parties to come forth and read the speech if he is unable to come. Of course, all of them, this side of the house, are the minority parties. That is parliamentary language. You can come, Chief Whip, for the minority parties. The speech is delivered on behalf of the ACDP by the Whip for Minorities.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The ACDP are disappointed in the many police officers being involved in these crimes. Two of such examples are the police officer from Wamakuta police station. It is alleged that he raped 24-year-old while she was in police custody. And apparently, he was accused of such crimes before. My question to you, Honourable MEC, why was it investigated when he was accused previously? If thorough investigation were carried out initially, this alleged incident could have been avoided. A 31-year-old Mr. Lindani Dudla from Ulundi was murdered. According to his family, he was beaten up, handcuffed, taken away by the police upon his arrival back home. He was bleeding severely. He was taken to hospital, and next day he succumbed to his injuries. The job of the police officers to provide safety and security to the people, not abuses their authority to bullying, abusing, raping, and murdering the people they were supposed to protect. Honourable MEC, our question to you is what preventative measures have you in place to prevent these acts allegedly conducted by the police is prevented? I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable S.E. McNally of the ACDP. The next speaker for 3 minutes is Honourable S. Hussein of the DA.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I've stood before this House on many occasions and raised dozens of cases where women were treated poorly at police stations. But there are no consequences for officials who fail to do their jobs. To this day, women still continue to face many cases of secondary abuse at SAP stations, where women have been turned away, belittled, embarrassed, and disrespected by SAP's officers. Let's not forget about the article published yesterday about a SAPS officer who allegedly raped a woman while in custody of SAPS. This is not the first time we have heard of such an incident like this, but again, there are no consequences for this. If we fail to act, we will fail in overcoming gender-based violence in our society. Honourable Speaker, whilst we welcome the interventions in the MEC's report, I wish to highlight a major weakness in the strategy to deal with gender-based violence in our province. These interventions, as positive as they appear, places heavy reliance on response measures and very little emphasis on preventative strategies. We live in a society where there has been centuries of inferior treatment of women. If we have to be honest with ourselves, many of our cultures and some of our religious practices have a heavy bias towards men in society. Many in our country grow up believing that they are superior to women, and this contributes largely to the manner in which they treat their sisters and wives. Our families have also contributed to this culture in a way that we treat a girl child by comparison to a boy. It starts there. We need a complete new paradigm shift and a new narrative that genuinely and sincerely treats women as equals. We have to start from the beginning. We must introduce educational programs in schools and universities. As leaders in society, we must begin engaging our religious and cultural leaders in society and secure their buy-in towards a new narrative in our society. Traditional leaders, too, have an enormous role to play in ensuring that our cultural practices do not favor men over women. Honorable Speaker, we can invest millions of rands and dozens of plans. But if we do not address the root causes of gender-based violence in society, we will forever be fighting this elusive beast. It starts with education and culture. It starts with us. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker for 5 minutes is Honorable MP Bala of the IFP.
Honorable Speaker, why are police still not sensitive to report GBV cases if these interventions have been successfully implemented in all districts? How many more women and children will die with these interventions in place but not offering any assistance to the victims on the ground? The IFP also notes the recent approved provincial GBV turnaround strategy, and while we applaud the approval of this strategy, we are concerned that there is no time frame of when this plan will be fully implemented. Honorable MEC should indicate on when and how will the strategies for strategic objectives and pillars will be unpacked and disseminated to communities, especially the fourth pillar, which is the reactive investigative approach, which will focus on the establishment of a dedicated gender-based violence detective task team at each district. Again, we welcome the implementation of the cold case strategy on GBV cases and prioritization of GBV cases at police stations. There is no time frame when this strategy will be implemented. The IP is concerned about the undue delay in finalizing GBV cases. The delay in finalizing cases is nothing more than promoting gender-based violence because the perpetrators are made to walk free while the victims suffer more emotional scars and even death. This is the gross violation of victims' rights. The IEP says anyone found to be dragging their feet in dealing and finalizing GBV cases must be punished or even fired from work. We must be serious about tackling GBV by ensuring that perpetrators are sent behind bars. The IEP also believes that everyone must know about this strategy, especially to Duzela care centers. Awareness programs should be conducted in all districts. People must know where and how TCCs operate and situated in their respective areas. They should know of all the numbers to be called or messaged when facing abuse. They must know which part of the police station deals with GBV. There is a need to increase community awareness on TCC service provision, considering that the majority of survivors reported being unaware of the existence of the TCC and the services that were accessible at the center. It is imperative that additional attention is dedicated to. The IP also want to know how the MEC plans to monitor and evaluate that all these plans ensure that there will be no women who will be sent back home when they want to report a crime against them, or that their perpetrators are roaming street, abusing, raping, and killing more victims. We need a clear time frame on when this task team will be established and performance measures on how all these strategies, plans, and pillars will be evaluated and monitored to ensure they achieve the intended result based on the planned goals and objective of capping GBV crimes. For many years, the government has announced good plans, policies, and interventions on white paper and failed dismally to implement and bear result. Part of that problem has been caused by poor monitoring and evaluation tools, which is non-existent in our country. We demand a better strategy for this department to ensure all these plans benefit all victims of GBV in one way or another. Resources should not be wasted. The IP is on the view that those strategies to yield fruit and deal with GBV, the province and the country at large should push for a transformed justice system. We know that the criminal justice system in South Africa works very slowly. It is worse for GBV cases. It takes years and years for suspects to be sent behind bars. Our justice system paints a grim picture of the criminal justice system's effort to curb the abuse of human. These strategies and plans vindicate us as the IFP. We have been saying that the government has been reactive toward GBV and that more focus, resources, and funding should be put into addressing root causes of violence and not only in prevention. When you go to courts and shelters, those are already victims. We are not preventing gender-based violence.
The next member and final member on the debate for 11 minutes is the chairperson of Environmental Affairs Portfolio Committee, Honorable S.W. Mshemu of the ANC.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Premier, members of the Executive, let me take off this thing with your permission. Thank you. Honorable members of this House, a very good morning. We once more meet in this House of Laws, still under Level 1 lockdown, day number 203, as we come to terms to what His Excellency President Ramaphosa refers to as the new normal, with a much heavier burden in the shoulders of the state, as more than 2 million jobs were shared by our economy in the second quarter, largely due to the effect of the lockdown. In the same vein, we are dealing with a new demon called gender-based violence that continues to distort and reverse the gains of our democracy. Honorable members, South Africa is a country that has almost all the instrument and structural frame to safeguard and insulate the life of a human being from any harm. The preamble of our Constitution assures us that this great land of our birth belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. This country belongs to the Gumede sisters, Akona and Nosipho, Nelisiwe and Bajaduma, Ms. Chiliza, Ms. Cele, all from Twalume, who were all raped and brutally murdered in the recent past. It would be a gross mistake, Honorable Speaker, to apportion the high levels of rape, in particular, to the socio-economic hardship, as a significant number of perpetrators are either employed or in a position of influence or power over their victims. Honorable Speaker, izolo bekuLesithathu enkantolo yaseMbumbulu bekuvela iphoyisa eliqashwe ngokusemthethweni, Honorable MSC, ngensolo zokudlwengula omunye udadewethu esiteshini sakwaMakhutha. This was a police officer who abused his authority. This was a police officer ofele i-national flag yethu ngamathe, because the crime committed within the premises of the state, that is to spit on the national flag of our country. It is such conduct that gives rise to reputational damage to the police. The trust deficit continues to widen as the custodians of the law and order are the ones at times inflicting unbearable and agonizing pain to women. The state of our police stations' infrastructure continues to be a hindrance in the delivery of safe and comfortable service to the victims of rape and gender-based violence. The morale of the police officers seems to be at the lowest level given the extremely inhabitable conditions they operate in. We welcome the provincial turnaround plan on gender-based violence as it seems to give practice and measurable meaning to the fight against the scourge. Honorable Kwala comes here and questions the issue of timelines, given the fact that the plan has been approved it is going to be effected with immediate effect, and obviously, periodically, the MSC, I am definitely sure that he will appraise this legislature on the progress on the implementation of this turnaround plan. Can I be protected, Speaker? Honorable Speaker, it is morally defeating the spirit of our law enforcement agencies when complainants or victims withdraw cases, irrespective of whether the perpetrator is a breadwinner or a stranger willing to compensate the victims in whatever means. Gender-based violence is a new social and political enemy that needs to be fought and defeated like our people did when we together defeated apartheid. Gender-based violence is an antithesis of human development. Sexual offences courts are meant to provide a victim-friendly court environment that will ultimately improve the conviction rate. We are pleased that in our province we have noticed a remarkable number of high cases being reported to the Thuthuzela care centers and our courts meting out long prison terms, including life sentences. The quality of sexual offences cases finalized is at around 92%, with around 70% conviction in this period under review. Honourable members, it is evident that the cases reported to Thuthuzela care centers are prosecutorial-driven investigations with all the relevant victim support mechanisms to make victims comfortable with the court's processes. As a result, there are significant numbers of cases being successfully finalized by the courts. It is rather disturbing to note that almost 15% of victims who come to the Thuthuzela care centers declines to open dockets with the police. And this actually points to the extent in which the perpetrators command power in one way or rather in one form or the other over their victims. Kuyathusa futhi kuyaphoxa ukuthi athi umuntu edlenguliwe kunako konke okubonakalayo ukuthi udlenguliwe kodwa yena aqome ukuthi angeke aze alivule icala. Umbuzo omkhulu ukuthi kungani ingoba mhlambe loyo omnukubezile mhlambe uyena omondlayo noma umsabisile ngokumbulala noma kwenze njani. Siningi impendulo esizibuza zona kodwa ezingaphenduleki kahle kahle. Honorable members, in our homes, women are not safe. In our places of work and worship, women and men are not safe. In our schools and institutions of higher learning, in our recreational centers and in our streets, in every facet of life is littered with people of man orientation who needs help. Correctional services centers or prisons keep the offenders away from the innocent public, but the question that the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services need to answer is whether rehabilitation programs offered to the inmates are of hard lesson and long-term life-changing in behavior. The devastation of COVID-19, Honorable Speaker, the mutilation of human life order as we know it, means we must all be in the shoes of the victims of gender-based violence in order for a new birth of warriors willing to fight the battle as their own. President Mandela had this to say in June 1994, addressing the Organization of African Unity after his inauguration as the first democratically elected president of our country. And I quote, "If freedom was the crown which the fighters of liberation sought to place on the head of Mother Africa, let the upliftment, the happiness, prosperity, and comfort of her children be the jewel of the crown," close quote. As a husband, as a father, taking advantage of this podium, Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I commit to fight gender-based violence with every fiber in my body. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Yeah.
Now we are going to call upon the Honorable MEC, Transport and Community Safety, to respond for 10 minutes.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I'm actually touched by the commitment that has been made by Honorable Mshengu, which I feel that it is a task for every one of us, both in this House and those that are joining us visually. And I think it is very important. And indeed, most of the members were indicating that fighting gender-based violence is our responsibility collectively. And I think maybe at a later stage we would need as men in this legislature to come out clearly like Ubaba Umshengu. And Baba Umshengu, I really salute you for that. Young as you are, handsome as you are, and this is very, very important, a message that you have sent to all of us. I do want to appreciate the participation of honorable members, both those that are here and those that are visually joining us. I think their debate and input on this topic is helpful to me that have been assigned to try and deal with the cases that are taking place all over the show. There are a few comments that I would like to make, especially on the issue of KwaMakuta case, that of the policeman that had raped a lady instead of protecting her. I am aware that this time around has been suspended and IPIT is investigating the case, and I believe that we all of us would need to wait for the outcome of the case. But I really appreciate that the constituency that you actually is manning in that area is very active in monitoring that station, because these are not only the activities, bad activities that have been committed by this policeman. Actually, that police station is under the limelight in that its operation is not Ayoba. The issue of the case in Ulundi that has been raised, Mfowethu Ulindani Dludla, I would like to apologize for the occurrence of that case. That Lindani was indeed was taken by the police for questioning from Inanda, TRT, and I did go to the family and I did go to Lundi when there were protesters. And I committed to people that were protesting that we will make sure that the perpetrators are brought to book. And indeed, I am now aware that action has been taken to those that were deployed there. And we would like to request members to join hands with the department so that such things are not repeated by our police members, men and women. But I do know that it is not all of them that are behaving ngale ndlela okubehave ngayo la maphoyisa. And in terms of Ms. Hussein, I realize that she is appealing that we should be taking stock on what we do and make research, which we are doing. And we do not want to play a blame game to members that are raising issues sharply, because we would like to deal with these challenges and root them out from our communities. And I will take every advice from anybody so that we make sure that gender-based violence is not continuing. And Dozie, thank you very much for a very good debate. Sorry, honorable member. I really appreciate that. And indeed, I do want to say that Honorable Cele has actually put me on the spot when he personally asked me what happens with the conviction rates that are taking place in the province, because she was very specific on laboratories, and which I need to report that we still do have a challenge in that in Manzimtoti we have a laboratory that where issues where evidence is being traced, but when it is raining, the building is not in a good state, and as such, we have raised it with the national. As members would be aware that it is a national competence, and national is committed to build a brand new laboratory at Pine Town, so that evidence is not being washed away as and when it is raining. But thank you very much, Ndosi, for raising that with me. And Honorable Ranchpansi, yes, I'm committed to communicate with whoever that calls me and make me aware of some of discrepancies that are happening in our police station. But I do want to commend the Portfolio Committee and its chair that they are really assisting me and the department in dealing with some of the issues that sometimes I'm not aware of, and they raise them with me, and we are able to deal with them. Honorable Kuala, thank you very much for your participation, and indeed, Honorable Mshengu is correct that this was approved, and every one of us has got to put it in action. And I accept that many members were saying we have good policies, but we lack in the implementation. And I think together we can be able to implement these policies. And more so on your oversight work that you do as a portfolio committee members, under the leadership of Unyambos, under the leadership of the ANC, you are going to be able to do your oversight role and succeed and assist us in making sure that we implement ATM. Bapagati, thank you very much for the support, and we do take note that these should be taken to rural areas as well, the visibility of the police and so on. It's safe to say that gender-based violence sometimes take place in closed doors. And I think kufanele nathi nje njengamadoda sikwazi ukuvuselela nembeza bethu. Ngizokuxuba baba uManqale nomlotshwa. Ngiyabonga kakhulu for your debate, and thank you very much. Sizozama ukubambisana nani in dealing with some of the things that you have raised. There is a structure, a task team that was formed by the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, which includes SEPS, NPA, and Community Safety and Liaison, in order for us to fast track and follow up on cases of gender-based violence. And we believe that would work, and they are meeting every month in order for us to fast track and follow up on cases that are lacking. And I think Honorable Swart Boy, who has launched a very good debate, and which we appreciate as well, as a person that is also involved in terms of her line function in the portfolio committee. But we thank you very much. And over 10 minutes, I'll go up here and thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes that 7.2. Now we go to item 7.3 and the orders. The debate on the commemoration of International Rural Women's Day. We will start it with the report by the Premier on the plans and progress towards advancement of women's access to land participation in agriculture and rural economies, noting that 15 October is marked as Day for International Rural Women's Day. For 20 minutes, we will give the Honorable Premier of KwaZulu-Natal. Ulubaphathiswa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, thanks for the opportunity, and I believe one is audible at this point. Honorable Speaker, members of the Executive Council, honorable members of the House, compatriots, friends, and all, as we meet today on International Day of Women, of Rural Women, I greet you all in the name of all powerful, resilient, and death-defying mothers and daughters of our beautiful province, especially those who live in the rural parts of our province. Since the 15th of October 2008, the world has been putting more attention on issues affecting rural women and galvanizing the global leaders and stakeholders to improve status and well-being of women living in rural areas. The ANC-led government that is in office, it is in office not for its own sake, but to create a national democratic society that is non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, united, and prosperous. In its strategy and tactics, the ANC has said that, and I quote, "The National Democratic Revolution seeks to build a society based on the best in human civilization in terms of political and human freedom, socio-economic rights, value system, and identity. If there were to be a single measure of the civilization mission of the National Democratic Revolution, it would be how it treats the most vulnerable in the society," close quote. Honorable Speaker, as we gather here today, we know how COVID-19 and our struggling economy has increased the vulnerability of rural women who are often at the periphery of the national discourse. We also know that despite the tremendous successes in improving the basic lives of South Africans since the dawn of democracy and freedom, there are still many KZN rural women who struggle to access water, decent sanitation, and adequate health care. Like all the women of our country, they are also exposed to abuse and gender-based violence. The ANC-led government is seized with these challenges and make a solemn pledge that we will never rest on our laurels until we attain the full emancipation of women of our land and achieve gender equality in our lifetime. Resonating with the ANC's commitment, we take heed from the late President General O.R. Tambo, who said in 1981, and I quote, "The mobilization of women is the task not only of women alone or of men alone, but of all of us, men and women alike, comrades in the struggle. The mobilization of the people into active resistance and the struggle for liberation demands the energies of women no less than that of men. A system based on the exploitation of men by men can in no way avoid the exploitation of women by the male members of the society," close quote. This is the system we inherited, and this is the system we must help overcome. Fellow compatriots, I wish to appraise honorable members of the House that as we meet here today, the Premier's office through spousal office and the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development and other stakeholders are commemorating October 15 with rural women of Umkhanyakude under the theme, Realizing Women's Right for Economic Emancipation of Rural Women. But equally, during this month, the Office of the Premier will be honoring 2 women centenarians from our rural areas as part of annual commemoration of the 2020 Senior Citizens Month. The centenarians are 105 years Ugogo Ushazi from Sontombe homestead of Umzi Wabantu under Ugu and Ugogo Mkwena from Danhausen. We know that also in this month we will hand over a house to Ugogo Ushazi, Ugogo Umkwena, who have been living in a corrugated shack with her daughter. Honorable Speaker, in line with the Freedom Charter demand that the land will be equitably shared by those who work it, the ANC government is making strides in redressing the land injustice of the past. In his 2020 State of the Nation's address, His Excellency President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa highlighted that, and I quote, "To date, we have released 44,000 hectares of land for the settlement of land restitution claims, and this year we will release around about 700,000 hectares of land for agricultural production," close quote. In this regard, government is prioritizing women, youth, and people with disability who have been denied access to farm and land ownership. Given the challenges of the past where land restitution resulted in land becoming fallow and unproductive, government has now introduced a new beneficiary selection policy which include compulsory training for potential beneficiaries before land can be allocated to them. Recently, just on the 1st of this month, the Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, Honorable Minister Thogo Didiza, announced that the state is ready to release this land and fulfill the undertaking made by the President in the Sondo. This process has identified 21 farms in KwaZulu-Natal, measuring approximately 9,307 hectares. The criteria include the prioritization of women, youth, and people living with disabilities. This land will be advertised by the National Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development by the end of the month. All women in agriculture are particularly encouraged to apply. This particular project of allocating state land will complement other programs that seek to ensure land ownership for women. The program of land tenure, which aims to secure long-term land ownership for women, especially those living in farms, has delivered a land to about 1,521 women out of 4,149 expected beneficiaries in the province. The distribution program, which provides access to agricultural land to subsistence, smallholder and commercial farmers, has benefited more than 1,258 women. These figures exclude land that is under the custodian of Ngonyama Trust and is accessed through its own instrument. The figures also exclude beneficiaries that may have benefited through land restitutions and claim programs. In accelerating land reform, the ANC government is continually ensuring that women, among others, benefit from the strategy that we've put in place. In this strategic plan of the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, the strategic plan states that while the majority of land distributed has been in the Northern Cape province, the highest number of beneficiaries from the redistribution have been in KwaZulu-Natal province, indicating that smaller pieces of land may have been distributed to more individuals in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Honorable members, government data also shows that there has been 8,381 beneficiaries on KwaZulu-Natal between 2009 to 2017, who constitute approximately 39% of the total beneficiary population. And this then tells you that KwaZulu-Natal is the leading one in the land restitution program. Government is also cognizant of the fact that these demographic dimensions illuminate a potential challenge regarding the ability for land reform to create sustainable economic transformation and equity in the country. And therefore, government recognizes that in order to substantially transform the economic structure, land reform must be conducted in a gender-sensitive manner that provide the economic participation of women. Compatriots and honorable members, a number of women farmers from KwaZulu-Natal are assisted by the state. To prioritize this and to empower but also inspire them to succeed, the Department of Agriculture came up with a program of a Female Farmer of the Year, where women in our province compete on their own. In 2016, Mrs. Ntomfuthi Ngaleka of Ugu was the winner. And then BBS farmers in 2009, 2012, 15 and 18. Mamponchi Farm 2018, Maureen Ngubane 2009, Tamizum and Zandile Sbiya from Ilembe, Kukuzondi Makosi Kakaza and Nozuko Ezuka Irene Majola Zamekile Shozi Kanyi Mkanyayo, as well as Simba Mabeli. All of these are beneficiaries who have won from this program. Honorable members, as KwaZulu-Natal through the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, we continue to provide a support to women in agriculture. The Department of Agriculture, Rural Development is part of an economic cluster and playing a critical role in the stimulation of economic growth, job creation, and the revitalization of the rural economy. When we commemorated Women's Month just this year under the theme Generating Equality, Realizing Women's Right for Equal Society Now, the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development launched an infrastructure development program, and among those, we handed over the following project. Yamando Sifit Lot etumtubatuba, Masisukume Tunnel Project etumlalazi, Kwagwebu Deep Tank etabakulusi, Bumbanani Matimande Irrigation Scheme at Alfred Duma, Sipiwa Inkosi Grazing Camp etumsinga, Kulakahle Goat Project and Hlubi Irrigation Scheme, both of them are at Alfred Duma. On top of this, we can report that in the 2020-2021, there are no less than 27 women-operated agricultural projects that are being supported from the budget of the department, and they are benefiting from about 82 million that have been allocated for their project. Apart of that, the department, in collaboration with its entity, the Agribusiness Development Agency, launch Amakawe Agri-Enterprise, a startup business operation on 16.5 hectares in Wine. On top of that, the department is working on TSAR beef trading, which is 100% black-owned project that is supported and is on produce of timber, grazing, and grain. Honorable Speaker, we reported on Women's Day that the department have committed to unlock 10,000 direct and indirect jobs for women, youth, out-of-school youth, and all unemployed graduates. The department is rehabilitating agricultural land, and that will create 1,100 EPWP job opportunities. We know that as part of intervening on COVID-19, the department offered the relief to women in agriculture who are 230 involved in poultry, 725 in vegetable farming, 208 involved in livestock farming. Women are advancing in radical economic transformation. South Africa's agricultural sector, we know that it remains skewed in favor of established, white, and male-dominated private sector. But black women and small-scale farmers are making an inroad. To change the status quo, as KwaZulu-Natal in 2016, we adopted a radical agrarian socio-economic transformation, RASET, to empower historical disadvantaged people to participate in the food value chain. I can highlight that, among others, women in rural areas have benefited a lot from this program. Some of the success of RASET are the 15 refrigerated trucks and 10 vans that were provided to Umkanyakude, King Kichwayo, Ilembe, as well as Herikwala district. Since the inception of RASET program, over 3,500 farmers have been assisted to access both the private and public market. 70% of these farmers are from disadvantaged community and are youth and women. In the first 3 months of the implementation of RASET program, farmers were able to sell their produce to the value of 44 million. The much of this demand came from the school nutrition program. In the Dugu area, about 200 female farmers were assisted with market. They successfully sold banana produce at the value of 4 million to the National School Nutrition Program. Before this intervention, these farmers did not have proper market. They never had any sustainable income, but today they have managed to secure a market. Since April of this year, we know of the effect of the lockdown, but more than that, as an intervention, we've assisted more than 200 farmers to sell their produce at the value of 7 million. So even during the lockdown, we never stopped supporting them. We created the market all over. We insist as government that these opportunities should not last only during the lockdown. Hence, the Department of Agriculture and the Department of ETIA are working hard to ensure that this niche market is secured in a sustainable way going forward. We are glad that there is a private sector involvement in the RASET program, which then support other farmers. Partnerships with the private sector business have been entered into a coordinated program. The main partners are the Dr. John Langalibalele Dube Institute, UKZN, and the Land Bank. We have successfully capacitated and included the additional 4 districts to the RASET program, and those are Ugu, Umzinyati, Umgungundlovu, and Utukela district. The future plans for the RASET is to ensure that we install agro-processing equipment in all district development agencies to focus on cleaning, sorting, grinding, packaging, and weighing. These facilities will also assist in adding value to primary produce. There are plans to construct banana ripping and storage facilities in Umkanyago.
Should we take time from your response time?
I will appeal that we do so, but we are going to finish now, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, let's check. Okay.
Honorable MEC Asia, Honorable Duengube, addressed the NCOP yesterday, outlines the plan to have put in place our SMMEs and cooperatives to venture in the ocean economy. These include creating facilities for the entire coastline, 43 fishing communities. All these plans are already in place and moving, and therefore we will ensure that our women in the coastline of the province participate in the fish processing and the entire value chain in the maritime industry. In conclusion, honorable members, there can be no doubt that the future of our province and the country at large is female. Women constitute more than half of our population, and we cannot think of building a new, just society by leaving them behind. On this International Day of Rural Women, we are all called to ensure that we urgently mainstream gender budgeting and accelerate rural development. Our mothers, grandmothers, sisters and daughters in rural areas should be prioritized in land reform programs. They should not be left behind in the digitalization and the fourth industrial revolution. As we make advances in agriculture, using drones and robotics, and deploying technology that predicts the weather and the climate change, let us ensure that rural women are benefiting from such technology. We commit that the ANC-led government will not rest until rural women enjoy peace, but further taste the fruit of freedom for which they sacrifice much. We will continue to dedicate ourselves to the call to selflessly serve and create a new civilization that protects human dignity and the most vulnerable among us, especially rural women. Together, let us create our common future and let us grow KwaZulu-Natal. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Premier is left with 8 minutes. Now we will start the debate, and the first speaker for 9 minutes is Honorable N.M. Sibiya of the ANC. I believe is on the virtual platform. Honorable Sibiya.
Siyabonga kakhulu Somlomo, sibingelele kuwena, sibingelele undunankulu, amalunga esishayamthetho saKwaZulu-Natal kanye nabaqongolose abalalele Somlomo. Ukugujwa kosuku lwamasemakhaya umhlaba wonke kulonyaka lumenyezelwe inhlangano yobumbano lwamazwe ngamazwe umhlaba wonke lwanikwa isihloko esithi Building Women's Resilience in the Wake of COVID-19. Le theme noma isihloko esiwumkhombandlela kulonyaka sibhekene ngqo nesimo umhlaba wonke obhekene naso esingakaze saba khona selokhu izwe laba khona. Ubhubhane lwesifo se-COVID-19 ngeke saphikisana ngokuthi ukuhlasela kwaso umhlaba kwenze inhlupheko yanda Somlomo ngezinga eliphezulu kakhulu elingakaze libonakale. Sonke siyazi ukuthi umhlaba wonke uphelele. Abantu okuthi uma kunenhlupheko kube yibo ebagabha kakhulu kubedlula bonke abantu abakhona kube abantu besifazane. Kodwa abantu besifazane abayizwela kakhulu inhlupheko kuba omama basemakhaya somlomo. Uma ufuna ukubona isimo senhlupheko, uma kunezifo noma kunezimpi noma isimo somnotho esingesihle, omama noma abantu besifazane basemakhaya kuba yibo abathwala usizo olukhulu. Namanje yibona abakuzwela kakhulu ukuhlupheka emhlabeni njengoba sibhekene nalesi sifo. Kodwa somlomo ngiyafisa ukuthi ngiphawule nakho kubalekile kuleli zwe laseNingizimu Afrika kuhulumeni oholwa ngumongameli ubaba uCyril Ramaphosa ngaphansi kwenhlangano yabantu uKhongolose. Wenze okukhulu nokuyinqophamlando la ezwenikazi lase-Afrika nomhlaba. Wathatha isinqumo sokufukula isimo sabantu bakithi abahluphekile kulesi sikhathi sobhubhane la eNingizimu Afrika. Somlomo amashumi ngamashumi ezigidi zamarandi, ezigidigidi zamarandi ithathwe yanikwa abantu bakithi abahluphekile esaziyo sonke ukuthi imali ebesiyibona benikezwe yona selokhu umongameli uRamaphosa amemezela eyinikwa uhulumeni ihlomulise kakhulu abantu besifazane basemakhaya. Usizi abebezobhekana nalo uhulumeni kaKhongolose walufukula, sabona impilo kubantu besifazane sishintsha bengazweli kulolu bhubhane njengoba sikubona kwenzeka kwamanye amazwe. Imali eningi ithathwe yayohlomulisa abantu besifazane basemakhaya. Siyambonga umongameli we-ANC ngokuma nabantu besifazane basemakhaya ukuthi ashintshe afukule usizi ababhekene nalo. Kuyacaca ukuthi uKhongolose umi ngakuphi uma kunezimo ezinzima futhi uyalwazi usizi lwabantu. Ukuqala kokubaluleka kwalolu suku somlomo ngaphansi kwenhlangano yobumbano lamazwe ngamazwe omhlaba laqala ngonyaka ka-2008. Ngalo lolu suku zili-15 izinsuku lapho lenhlangano yamemezela umkhankaso omkhulu wokuthi kuxhaswe umzabalazo wokukhulisa ulwazi lwabantu besifazane umhlaba wonke jikelele namantombazane asemakhaya ngokuguquka kwesimo sezulu nangokubafundisa ngezolimo nokukhiqiza ukudla nokugcina kwamagugu emvelo. Somlomo la eNingizimu Afrika uKhongolose wakwenza kwacaca ukuthi abantu besifazane balelizwe babaluleke kanjani igalelo labo emzabalazweni wenkululeko yezwe. La okusaziyo khona ukuthi abantu besifazane basezindaweni zasemakhaya ababa ingxenye enkulu yokukhulula izwe lakithi eNingizimu Afrika. Iningi lemizi ey'ndaweni zasemakhaya imizi ibanjwe abantu besifazane. Ngaphansi kwabo lelizwe ngaphandle kwabo lelizwe ngabe alikho la elikhona namuhla. Asiwuhalalisele uKhongolose ngokuthi njalo unike umkhombandlela bese kuyalandela-ke nonomgogwane bamaqembu labe sinabo la eNingizimu Afrika uma uKhongolose usuyikhombile indlela. Ukusungulwa kweBantu Women's League ngonyaka ka-1918 okwenzeka ngaphansi kobuholi bukamama uCharlotte Maxeke kwaholela ekutheni uKhongolose ugcina usungula uphiko lomama ngo-1948. Lokhu kwaba ngokuqala uKhongolose uqhubeka njalo wathatha isinqumo sokuthi omama bonke bathole ukulingana nabantu bobunye ubulili okuwabantu besilisa ebesazi ukuthi la ezwenikazi lase-Afrika nomhlaba wonke jikelele ikakhulukazi nala eNingizimu Afrika ey'ndaweni zasemakhaya abantu besifazane bebengathathwa babekwe phambili kodwa bekuba abantu besilisa abahonqa phambili kuyona yonke into. Lokhu kuyinkambiso uKhongolose akhelwe ngaphansi kwayo kulingana ngokobulili ngaso sonke isikhathi. Lesi senzo sahlomulisa kakhulu omama basemakhaya okuyibona ababethola ukungaziswa kakhulu nokunganakwa. Namhla lokhu uKhongolose uney'nhlelo ezinhle somlomo iy'nhlelo ezinhle zokwakha nokuphumelelisa omama basemakhaya. Uma uhamba uya eMsinga namhlanje somlomo uyalibona ushintsho olwenzekayo komama abalimayo lapha uma ugudla umfula uthukela eMtateni. Uyabona ukuthi kuney'nhlelo ezinhle kakhulu ezifakiwe lapha uhulumeni waKwaZulu-Natal oholwa uKhongolose zokuthi uguqule impilo zabantu bakithi basemakhaya okuwomama ikakhulukazi somlomo esibabonayo nesaziyo ukuthi bekuyibona abebesalele emuva. Kodwa uKhongolose ukushintshe kakhulu lokho wenza sure ukuthi wonke umuntu wesifazane okhona la eNingizimu Afrika uyalithola ithuba elanele lokuthi naye akwazi ukwenza impilo yakhe ibe ngcono kanye nomndeni yonke abaphila nayo ey'ndaweni zasemakhaya. Somlomo thina esikhulele futhi esihlala ey'ndaweni zasemakhaya kuyimanje Siyawubonga uhulumeni we-ANC ngezinguquko eziningi ozilethele omama basemakhaya. Sikhule thina somlomo la ey'ndaweni zasemakhaya uma umama ezobeletha umuntu wesifazane obesazi ukuthi uzobelethela ekhaya. Ebesazi ukuthi uma ebelethela ekhaya ithuba lokuthi angaphili kanye nomntwana wakhe futhi angaphili belilikhulu kakhulu. Namhlanje ukhongolose wakushintsha konke lokho. Waletha idingo ngqangi zezempilo wayisondeza emakhaya. Izinto esasingakaze sazicabanga ukuthi zingaba khona. Namhlanje sakhula thina i-ambulance kwakuyinto eyigcina uyifunde ebhukwini. Ngikhula nje ngize ngamdala i-ambulance somlomo ongayazi. Kodwa namhlanje siyawabona ama-ambulance ey'ndaweni zasemakhaya zikwazi ukuthi zilekelele abantu bakithi egijima ebalekelele ekutheni impilo yabo iphile ngoba into yokuqala ebalulekile ekutheni sigcina abantu bakithi besifazane basemakhaya bephila ukuthi sibanike ithuba lokuphila impilo ende bekwazi ukuthi bathole indawo abazokwazi ukuthola imithi basinde uma bebhekene nezifo ezithile ezibadingayo. Abantu besifazane bakithi emakhaya namhlanje sebefundiswe iy'nhlelo eziningi zezempilo ezikwaziyo ukuthi zibasize bakwazi ukuthi nabo bagcine bephila impilo ende bebengayiphili impilo ebebeyiphila kuqala. Siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi namhlanje usizi likaMashanda wonye esikhulelwe uyintsakavukela umchilo wesidwaba ey'ndaweni zasemakhaya alusenjengoba beluyiyona kodwa futhi selizanywe kakhulu ukuthi luphele luqedwe and siyalibona luya ngasekupheleni. Yingenxa yezinhlelo esizibonayo ey'bhekiswe kubantu basemakhaya nokuthuthukisa nokukhulisa iy'ndawo zasemakhaya okulethwa yilo hulumeni ka-ANC. Okuyinto ebeyingakade yenzeke. Kulabo ababephethe kuqala siyazi ukuthi abantu besifazane bakuthola kangakanani ukuhlukunyezwa. Sesingabezwa bekhuluma namhlanje bezigqaja beyishaya isifuba bethi nabo bamele abantu besifazane kodwa umlando awukazi ukuthi ungalikhuluma iqiniso ngoba siyazi ukuthi ey'ntweni eziningi ebezenzeka umuntu wesifazane bengaziwana nokuthi uyini. Umhlaba bebengawutholi. Abantu besifazane bebengavumelekile ukuthi babe nemizi ngisho kuthiwa bahambe beyobekwa ey'ndaweni zasemakhaya bebengavumelekile bekufanele asebe nendodana ukuze akwazi ukubekeka. Kodwa lo hulumeni kakhongolo sokhona namhlanje waziqeda zonke lezo zinto ngenxa yokuthi waqonda ukuthi abantu besifazane ukube babengekho kwakungayibona ababebamba amakhaya ngesikhathi esinzima somzabalazo namanje abasewabambile ngabe asikho la isikhona ngoba kahle kahle abantu besifazane basemakhaya ibona bakwaze ukuthi bakwazi ukuthi abantu abahambe bayolwela lelizwe noma ngabe abaphumele ngaphandle baba amasotsha noma abantu ade bekhona la ngaphakathi kodwa abantu besifazane bebebamba imizi kwesinye isikhathi obaba besegoli behamba beyozama amatoho imizi isale ibanjwe abantu besifazane basemakhaya. Namhlanje ngisho ukhuluma ngezinto ezithinta intuthuko nokuthuthukiswa kwabantu besifazane emakhaya uyababona abantu besifazane emakhaya.
The next member for 10 minutes is Honorable Chief Mtetwa of the IFP.
Imagine to kill it to the Kamala from Mtetwa.
Honorable Chief Mtetwa, come and help us to do it. I will request the whip of the party to check and the staff from the office of the chief whip to check. In the meantime, I will move on to Honorable Mtuli for 4 minutes. Honorable Kwala and Honorable Kunene, ngicela ningisize. Ngicela ukudlulela ku Honorable Mtuli for 4 minutes of the DA.
I'm available, Somlo.
Can I? Oh. Honorable Chief Mtetwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Ngithe okokuqala ngikhuluma nje ngomuntu wasifazane ohlala endaweni yasemakhaya nasemkhanya kodwa ngixoxelwa ke le ndaba engizobe ngiyikhuluma ngizobe ngikhuluma into engiyibona ngamehlo. I'm representing i-IFP engeyena unomgogwana njengoba isikhulu esanda kwedlula kade sisho i-IFP is just a political party registered with respected members mhlambe akhona-ke lamanye amaphathi angosomgogwana but not i-IFP. Ngiyafisa futhi ukusho ukuthi i-IFP iyona la e-KZN yokuqala yabeka induna even prior 1994 kusho ukuthi zabantu besifazane ikwazi ukuthi there are women in rural areas bayakwazi ukuphatha although bebengabaningi kangako kodwa there were few women that were given a chance. It is very unfortunate that we are here again today listening to more empty promises to rural women who continue to suffer economic and social exclusion, which have undermined their capacity to develop and grow themselves in many ways. Rural women and rural communities are at the core of triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Women make up the majority of the rural population and labor force in commercial farming, yet they are deprived of the land ownership to this date. The government even failed to protect these rural women against brutal and unfair treatment they receive from some of the farmers because the dignity of a rural woman has never been respected by the government. They are only remembered when it's time for election. It is an undisputed fact that the government of the day's land reform program has failed all women of South Africa, more especially the rural women, black women. Yet most rural women depend on land and informal sector for a living to provide food for their families. Majority of households are headed by poor women in our country, but only men have been major beneficiaries of the government's land reform program. Women continue to be shortchanged by a system which is in dire need of repair. It is therefore a fact that the government's plan to combat the plight of women's landlessness has borne invisible fruit so far. Even research evidence reveals that women in South Africa still carry the cost of oppression. They are still marginalized by the land reform programs, with women constituting less than a quarter of land beneficiaries in the whole country. Land reform policies have failed to make rural women champion production of their own food, but have been made to be dependent on the social grant and donation from the government. Rural women have always been able in the past to produce food to feed families and sell, which in turn contributed in the protection of food security, sees socio-economic opportunities. The COVID-19 also made things worse for rural women who depend in the informal sector for a living, as it affected their ability to earn a living thanks to social distancing and the 5-week ban on non-essential commerce. Moreover, government even lacks a plan to accommodate rural women who migrate to towns and cities to seek employment opportunities. Instead, they are treated like foreigners in their own country. Many are congested in bad state informal settlement without proper basic services, such as ablution facilities, water, and electricity. The IFP understands that the land issues carries with it the promise of healing the wounds of the past for rural women. That land has social, spiritual, and economic value for rural women and has the potential to be the foundation of the renewed economy which rural communities so critically need today. It is this understanding that the IFP believes that the government must allocate all unused land that is in the hands of the state to assist the poor rural women and rural communities as a whole. IFP believes that there is a need for the Premier to commission a full-scale land audit to officially determine who owns what. Those findings should help on distribution land to rural women and to support their community projects to farm commercially. The IFP also believes that government must allocate specific support for modern agricultural and other developmental initiatives to redress the imbalances of the past and monitor this support to ensure corrupt and greedy individuals do not misuse resources for themselves and their cronies. We have for years watched the ANC comrade hooking this with state resources meant to assist the poor communities in rural areas. As a result, very few communities have had access to any assistance from departments such as the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. Yabona ke mangasho la uPremier basinaye endumo ezoshiya ogandaganda esiza abantu basendumo baya nasemsinga wathi ehamba ugandaganda wamlandela kuze kube namhlanje lo gandaganda okabuyi but abantu because kuba basemakhaya they are still quiet but they were promised by the same Premier engakholwa ukuthi uyazi ukuthi ugandaganda walandela ngemuva kwakhe. Even previous audit reports have revealed that many times funding resources never reach intended beneficiaries in this province, but get to a selected politically connected individual. As long as government programs continue to be politicized in this province, rural women will continue to be excluded and marginalized in the hands of the ruling party. I will quote the incident yasendumo lapho abantu besifazane bafikele khona ngama-food parcel kuthiwa kuzosizwa abantu besifazane abawu-90 but kwathiwa u-MEC waka-social development uthe lawo ma-food parcel akayonikezwa i-Women's League. I personally, because of i-concern yabantu basengwavuma, I went to the social development. Then they said, no, it was the office of the MEC, Sionikez, the Women's League, and the food that was paid by us was distributed. Ngabantu abarong. There, it was not from the Premier, but abantu abagangile bahamba babekhona kuma-system. The IFP have also for years urged the ruling government to establish a training infrastructure by introducing agricultural science at school level and reopening agricultural training colleges in all municipalities where youth will be trained. But I'm happy that the Education Department this Friday is visiting high school that are offering agriculture because we know ukuthi impilo yabantu incike kakhulu ey'ntweni ezithinta ukulima, especially emakhaya. The IFP also believe that the government must finalize outstanding land claims under strict monitoring and evaluation program. We know that greedy politically connected hyenas have been abusing this program to benefit themselves and their comrades. As research shows that dividend of the country's biggest land claim settlement are benefiting less than a third of intended recipients and beneficiaries. Less than a third. They are running this program like their own spaza shops, thanks to former MEC Umthembu. Owayeloku akhale njalo ngu-HOD yaka-agriculture. Osekuvelayo ngempela manje ukuthi he was not lying. It was a fact. A lot must be done to monitor programs. When we reopening land claims, the window when the reopening land claims, the window for further application and claims should focus on rural women and rural communities. The IFP also called for land expropriation with the compensation. Expropriated land should be prioritized for disadvantaged groups such as women and youth. The IFP advocate for building trust. Why are we saying that? We advocate for building trust and common purpose among all land users, traditional leaders, claimants, tenants, farm workers, farm owners, as well as the government. As a result, we believe that the administration of communal land should remain in the hands of the people under the custodianship of traditional leadership, with the provincial government providing support to traditional leaders and emerging rural women farmers and elevating them to a state of commercial farming. The government must also deal with the growing number of farm murderers, which discourages the established farmers from continuing to farm, and many rural women lose their jobs in the process. Small rural emerging farmers should be supported and mentored to plan, manage, and access finance for their farms. Help our rural women by promoting communal economies through self-help and self-reliance programs and projects. South African rural women voters, they have a chance. They have a chance to fix the rhetoric in the next election. They have the power. They just need to use it to fire a leadership that is dishonest, unreliable, and uncaring. A leadership that cares about voters only, but failing to administer their basic rights, including land and water. The IFP leadership is the leadership that knows how to get the land working. We know what needs to be done and how to do it. We encourage subsistence farming where each family owns one garden, feed their family. We also encourage women to start agricultural cooperatives.
The next member for 4 minutes is Honorable Mtuli of the DA.
Ngibonge Somlomo ithuba lokuthi ngikhulume namhlanje. Ngicabanga ukuthi sonke siyazi ukuthi umsebenzi wahulumeni ukuthi uwazi ukusiza abantu bekwazi ukuthi bebe nempilo ezingcono, bekwazi ukuthi wonke amathuba angasiza ukuthi impilo zabo zisebenze bebe nazo. Kodwa siyabona namhlanje ukuthi namanje abantu besifazana ngempela sisahlezi ngaphansi kwengcindezi. Njengoba silalele kule nkulumo eyenzeke singakaqali, abantu besifazana bayasaba ngisho ukuba khona eSouth Africa. Emakhaya abantu abafanele ngabe babathanda yibona bababulalayo noma babahlukumezayo. Emsebenzini ngisho ngabe umuntu wesifazana owenza umsebenzi ofanayo njengomuntu wesilisa, kuyakhombisa from i-status ukuthi wena ozobe ukhokhela ngaphansi kwalokho. Futhi mengabe ubuka i-top management ekhona kuyinkampani ekhona eSouth Africa, kuyacaca ukuthi abantu besifazana bakanikeza amathuba ukuthi ephathe. So i-gender inequality into ekusafanele silwe nayo yonke indawo, ekhaya, emsebenzini, and in broader society. Kodwa thina hlasimpe sinenhlanhla ngoba sesikwazile ukuthi sithola amathuba sibe baholi. Abantu sekufanele sibakhulumele ngempela manje ilaba bantu besifazana abahlala emakhaya ngoba bona they have double the pressure. And when they are not able to have services delivered or to be kept home and safe or to access job opportunities, the brunt of those policies and our inability as a state to deliver them affects them even more than the average woman. I must applaud that we're having this debate on helping rural women be able to access land and agricultural opportunities. But we must be very honest that this cannot happen in a silo. How do we give women access to land when our own land registry currently is in a haphazard mess in South Africa? How are we going to do that? Because we must be very careful of not giving people false hope and telling them that we're going to do something and not being able to achieve. Nami nomhlaba, umama wami nomhlaba, ugogo nomhlaba, ngingathanda kabi ukubuyela bona ngobatshela ukuthi sizowenza njani njengohulumeni ukubasiza. Ngicela ukuthi sicabange leyo nto ngempela rather than just speaking about how this is something that would be nice in platitudinous terms. How will we give agricultural opportunities to laba bantu when we have had an inability to help our own farmers, our own commercial farmers currently secure markets? South Africa has gone from having 120,000 commercial farmers to 38,000. I'm glad that we want women to access this market, but how do we do it when currently the state isn't able to help even subsidize some of these farmers to be able to meet these challenges? And now we are saying we're going to help rural women who haven't been given the training and the resources to be able to compete at that level. I think it's a good thing that we're talking about it, but we must be realistic and we must have concrete plans of how we plan to do this. Otherwise, we risk really damaging the hope that people have in what our governments can produce. I think the most important part of this debate is that what we must understand, zonke lezi nkinga esinazo manje, the violence, the poverty, the unending cycle of trauma that we have in our culture and in our society really begins in the home. So it's one thing to say at the end we want to have GBV rooms and safety training for police officers and we'll arrest people, but that is at the end of a very long cycle. And personally, as a woman, I don't care whether you decide to make femicide a hate crime if it means that there's nothing going to be done to prevent it from happening in the first place. And so when we speak about access to land and opportunities, what we really should be talking about is we want to do this not just to give women the ability to farm, not just to give women the ability to have this opportunity, but because we're trying to sort out our society. Because if you can give women these kinds of opportunities and you allow them to be agents in the economic zone, then what you're going to be doing is allowing for them to help them.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Oh. Yeah,
the next speaker for 6 minutes is Honorable LB Khoza of the EFF. We have received an apology, therefore we will move to the next speaker, Honorable VR Mlotshwa of the NFP for 2 minutes.
Mhlonishwa somlomo, abahlonishwa bonke. Honorable Speaker, International Rural Women's Day is a progressive way in fighting socio-economic issues in this regard. Rural women are the key representative for achieving the transformational economic, environmental, and social changes required for sustainable development. As NFP, we are concerned as to how can the government assure that women in rural areas get access to land expropriation bill. Some of the rural areas, women are still not allowed to inherit their late husband's asset or property. Women are seen inferior in these rural areas in which young women are in verge state of forced marriage. Njengoba bethwalwa nje babuye badlwengulwe ogogo nengane encane, babuye banunuselwe ngomsebenzi amadoda ukuba abafake emsebenzini kuze bazolala nabo. Honorable Speaker, we see women in the rural areas participating in informal economic sector in which they are in a disadvantaged state of getting assistance from the government and other agencies. As NFP, we call on the government and private sector to invest in women living in rural areas. Women carry out vital function in caring for children, older persons, and the sick. Government's intervention is highly needed to help eradicate rural poverty. Honorable Speaker, we urge the government and private sector to assist in forming co-ops and reviving economical development. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Member, the next member for 9 minutes is Honorable MEC BM Sithole Moloi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to your good self, Honorable Speaker, to the Deputy Speaker in his absentia, wishing him a speedy recovery. We miss him. Honorable Premier, members of the Executive Council, honorable members of the August House, and all that are with us in this sitting, I greet you all. Honorable Speaker, I want first to thank God for giving me this opportunity to participate in this debate, and also thank the African National Congress, the glorious movement of our people, who has given me this opportunity and tasked me to be part of this debate, which is very crucial and important for our people and also for rural women of our country. We are today commemorating the International Rural Women Day, a day before the commemoration of the World Food Day that is going to take place tomorrow. That is very important to us as people of KwaZulu-Natal and people of this country, to recognize and also to ensure that we really focus on matters that pertains to empowering and also ensuring that we upgrade and uplift our women in the rural areas. Ngale nyanga ke somlomo ensikhuluma kuyo inyanga kaOctober, inyanga lapho siyibiza ngokuthi inyanga kamdala ubaba uR Tambo, owaba ngumongameli kaKhongolose isikhathi eside, walida emkhakheni yonke kaKhongolose. Okubaluleke kakhulu ke ngaye uma sikhuluma ngaye kule nyanga sidebate ngabantu besifazane abahlala endaweni ezingaphandle kwasemadolobheni, ukuthi wayethanda enentshisekelo enkulu ukuba ababona abantu besifazane bekhululekile, behamba phambili ekwenzeni ukuba kushintshe izimpilo zabo nezimpilo zabo bonke abantu. Lokho sikusho ke namhlanje ngoba ezovula unyaka wa 1984 lapho awubiza ngokuthi unyaka wabantu besifazane, wakhuluma lamazwi, I quote and close quote, "The liberation of the land of our birth and all its people
will materialize as a genuinely popular victory on the basis of the involvement of the masses, including the women in their millions, as a conscious and active part of the anti-racism and anti-colonialism and democratic movement of South Africa. One of the fundamental tasks that this process of the national liberation confronts is the liberation of women of our country from triple oppression of sex, class, and color. He was the champion of the emancipation of women. I close quote. Honorable Speaker, I'm saying these words from Comrade O.R. Tambo because it fits at this day as we are speaking today. That when we speak of the triple oppression, today we speak of the triple challenges that faces our country, which is poverty, unemployment, and inequalities. I believe that when the Premier was presenting, he covered a number of programs. I'm not going to go back to that, but I'm going to say that we have a challenge, and also we have made programs that are trying to ensure that we empower our women. We also listen to them. On the 12th of March this year, we had a dialogue with women in agriculture. In that dialogue, we are trying to ensure that we speak with women and also give opportunity to the women to participate kwezolimo ezweni lakithi. Siyafuna ukusho ukuthi izinto eziyingqinamba ezibhekene nabantu besifazane uma sizokhululeka ebuphofini nasengabi khona kwemisebenzi nasengalinganini kwezomnotho, lokho kuyothatha ukuthi senze igxathi lokuthi siwenze ukuba umhlaba ube khona lapho abantu besifazane bezosebenza kuwona. Senze iqiniseko sokuthi abesifazane bayaxhaswa ngezingqalasizinda abazokwazi ukuthi bazisebenzise, bakwazi ukuthi basebenze umhlaba ukuze ukhiqize ngendlela elindelekile. Siphinde futhi sibanikezele ithuba lokuthi bakwazi ukuthi uma beyofuna izimali ezindaweni lapho utholakala khona izimali emabhange, bakwazi ukuthi bakwenze lokho ngoba ezinye zezinto ezibakhinyabezayo nolwazi ukuba silithuthukise sibazise ukuthi yiziphi izinto abangazenza, bese kuthi kulokho abafisa ukukwenza sibafundise ngakho ukuze bakwazi ukuthi bakwenze ngempumelelo. Nokuba sibafake okhondolweni lokuthi kulesi sikhathi esiphila kusona siphila esikhathini lapho kusebenziswa izinsimbi noma izinsiza ezibizwa ngokuthi i-technology. Lokho kwenza ukuthi-ke bazi ukuthi sebengakwazi ukudayisa imikhiqizo yabo besebenzisa lezi insiza ezibekiwe zokuthi kwenze kusheshe kufinyelele ebantwini. Sifuna ukusho-ke somlomo la ukuthi sekukhulunyiwe kwabikwa ngezinye zezinto. Angiboni ukuthi kungaba kuhle ukuthi singayiphenduli inkulumo ethi undunankulu wahamba wayolontsha isikhathi sokuba kulinywe entwasahlobo esibuya kuyona, wahamba nabo futhi ogandaganda bamlandela. Kuyinto engelona iqiniso leyo ngoba singakusho singangabazi ukuthi ngalelo langa kwakulethwe ukuba kuchazwe ukuthi iyaqala intwasahlobo nokulima kuyaqala, kodwa zonke izinsiza zalethwa zavela. Undunankulu waphinde wabuyela esefokaseke ngqo manje njenganoshampiyoni wasemkhanya kude, wayozicalula wazinikezela kubanini abantu ababefanele ukuthi banikezelwe lolo sizo esibabiza ngokuthi ama-beneficiaries. Kuyinto engelona-ke iqiniso ukuthi lezi zinsiza ezazilethwe undunankulu ezozichaza ukuthi zizoma kanjani uma sizolima zaphinde zamlandela. Akunjalo ngoba lokho sizokubona ngomkhiqizo eyenziwe kusukela kwintwasahlobo esibuya kuyona nezinto abantu bakithi abazihlomulile kusukela lapho namathuba omsebenzi enzekile. Siyafuna-ke ukuthi sisho-ke phambi kwalesishayamthetho somlomo nosihlalo woyihlalo, bengingaboni kahle, osihlalo woyihlalo osehleli esihlalweni lapho ukuthi kuningi umnyango wezolimo uma esabela ikhwela likamongameli nekhwela likandunankulu lokuba abantu besifazane abasemakhaya bangene emkhakheni wezolimo. Senzeke imisebenzi eminingi. Sizofuna nje ukuthi sisho ukuthi ngonyaka ka-2019 2020 umnyango wezolimo kanye no-ADA i-entity yakhe bakwaze ukuthi bahlomulise abantu besifazane nemisebenzi eyenziwa abantu besifazane yezolimo iy'nkampani zabo ngemali engango-90 million. kusho ukuthi-ke u-development waka-agriculture, u-ADS, kanjalo no-ADA behlanganyele. Abantu abahlomulile noma ama-project esiwenzile lapho, ama-project adlulile ku-57 athinta nje abesifazane kuphela. Siyafuna ukuthi-ke lokho sikubike lapha. Sikubika ngoba kwaba nomhlangano wabakhona wabantu base-South Africa besifazane abaso emkhakheni wezolimo. Lapho banquma khona ukuthi fanele kube ne-program yokusiza abantu besifazane abangama-smallholders. Leso sinqumo sizale ukuba namhlanje sikhuluma ukuthi kunabantu besifazane abangu-600 abakwazile ukuthi bahlomule kuleyo program. Sikhuluma nje bayakwazi ukuthi abanye bakhiqize izingulube bazihlinze bazithengise, nabatshalayo izitshalo ngokwahlukana kwazo, nalabo abafuye izinkukhu bayakwazi bahlomulile kakhulu kuloko. Sifuna-ke ngoba umongo walenyanga walolu suku uthi building rural women's resilience in the wake of COVID-19 for building back better by strengthening rural women's sustainable livelihood and well-being. Kusho ukuthi-ke nathi njengomnyango wezolimo KwaZulu-Natal siye sathi makufika lesi sikhathi sengcindezi kwakhona izikhathi lapho sinikezela khona izinsiza kwabantu besifazane. Kulolu hlelo le-relief fund ebikhona ye-COVID-19 KwaZulu-Natal sasinama-applications awu-4,732. Kulawo 4,732 uKwaZulu-Natal wahlomula 100 million, waphinda futhi kwahlomula abesifazane aba-1,736. Kusho ukuthi-ke umsebenzi wethu-ke uyabonakala kubantu besifazane. Amalungu esishayamthetho nabantu bakwaZulu-Natal bazokhumbula ukuthi kulezi nyanga ezidlule siye saveza imisebenzi ebambekalayo etholakalile. Sihambisa imisebenzi laphaya eKokstad lapha sasiyonikezela udadewethu oneplazi eli-1,600 hectares, imali engango-4 million ukumsupporta, kanjalo nasewineni lapho besiye khona. Somlomo ngiyabonga ukuba ungiphelele ithuba. Sithi phezu komkhono, sithi abantu besifazane babalulekile.
Thanks to Honorable B.N. Sitolumloy. We are now going to give an opportunity to Honorable Takarosh Bansi for 2 minutes of the minority. France.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The MF welcomes the UN 2020 theme, Building Rural Women's Resilience in the Wake of COVID-19. Honorable Speaker, this pandemic has disadvantaged women and girls everywhere, but the problems are aggravated in rural areas due to the slow pace of rural economic development, spatial planning and land reform. Honorable members, in terms of building rural women's resilience and the 17 SDGs, namely poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequality, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and lastly, partnerships for the goals, means that every department should follow up on a special report to this Honourable House with respect to the 2020 theme and what are the programs, projects, and rural budgetary allocations towards achievement by 2030, together with the NDP targets, with various committees that can monitor and oversee these. The MF introduced the first party debate in 2000 on a poverty blueprint for KwaZulu-Natal, which saw many initiatives like OSS, Green Revolution, and the Koshinjlala programs planned and actions. Today, we welcome the RACIT program with the proviso that it allows for open opportunities for poor Indian and colored women to enter into the farming sector as well. We have to make bold political decisions because COVID-19 has changed the rules and our understanding of the global economy. Honourable Premier, our focus should be on fast-tracking the land reform via the ad hoc committee that was established this week, with strategies based on each property's ecological potential and socio-economic context. The MF thanks our Honourable MEC Sitola Malawi for her dedication to empowering rural women in various ways. Thank you.
We are now moving to Honorable Phakathi of the ATM for 2 minutes.
Sihlalo siyabonga. Asisho ukuthi usuku esilugubhayo namhlanje lo mama basemakhaya, omama abazithola ngaso sonke isikhathi benganakiwe ngenxa ke yendawo esibuya kuyona. Asivumelane ukuthi namhlanje izinkinga eziningi esinazo zivele ngesikhathi sobandlululo. Namanje sisalwa nesilwane esikhulu esingazi ukuthi siyofana nini ekuthiwa ubandlululo. Ababe ingxenye yalo hulumeni webandlululo. Siyabezwa ke bekhuluma ngomama basemakhaya kodwa bengakaze befike emakhaya. Umhlaba awubuyele kubantu abamnyama. Umhlaba awuye komama basemakhaya. Ama-departments nawo siyawaphusha ukuthi cha, akwenze sure, asenzeni sure ukuthi wonke lama programs uPremier ekhuluma ngawo ayenzeka omama basemakhaya. Ngeke sikubalekele ukuthi omama basemakhaya basacindezekile, abanamanzi kodwa khona abantu abathile abanamadamu abo. Siyafisa ukuthi uhulumeni wethu uzame ngayo yonke indlela ukuthi ziphele lezi zinto zabantu abathize kodwa izimfuno zonke zifinyelele nakomama basemakhaya. Siyabonga.
Thank you, Honorable Phakathi. We now move to the speaker from the ACDP, Honorable Mangaile.
Hello. Speaker. Do you hear me, Speaker? May I greet you, Speaker, the Premier, and all honorable members. As we commemorate International and Rural Women's Day, we are grateful to God for the women who have played a significant role in our lives. We remember the rural women contribution in enhancing agricultural and rural development, improvement, food security, and eradicating poverty, which also contributes to the development of our economy in South Africa. Speaker, I also emphasize that the rural women must be given a productive land for them to produce food. They must also be taught agricultural, that how can they continue developing food for our living purposes. In honor of them, we also need to protect them from this kind of violence which are around our areas. Research is showing that about 6 times of illiterate women has got more times to be violated than those women who are educated. Therefore, we must start now, Chair, preparing our future women. Lezingane eziphuma esikoleni early, we need to make sure that khona esikwenzayo ngazo ukuze zifunde, ukuze zingaqhubeki nokuviolatewa. Ngoba ukungafundi ikhona okudala ukuthi umuntu ebe yisilulu salo lonke usizo ongalicabanga emhlabeni. Therefore, siyakufisa ukuthi azibe khona iy'nhlelo zabantu abangama-drop out. Bonke labo sisabanikezwa imali zebonelelo zengane bahlale emakhaya benzi lutho. We must come up with amicable program yokuthi basizwa ngani to face the future. Thank you very much.
We are now moving to the speaker from the DA. Zuma.
Hi, can you hear me, Speaker?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I think for future purposes, let's stick to the rules, virtual rules, that if ukhuluma funa i-camera yakho ivele Honorable Manqele bengakwazanga ukwenza lokho. Let's stick to that. It's the rule, it's the rule of the house. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for reminding us about that important rule. Can we then move to Honorable Papas?
Speaker,
Corner.
Speaker. Point of clarity, Speaker.
Yes.
Speaker, I explained my position and my problem as early as before the meeting could start. That is why I could not able to present in the first.
No, we have done with that, Honorable. We have done with that. We are interrupting the DA speaker now.
But now we have
the DA speaker now. Can you switch? There is another hand there. Honorable Tsele.
Thank you, Mr. I stand on Rule 52. I will leave it in that. There's a question to the Speaker.
To the Speaker?
Honorable Papas.
We haven't started yet.
He spoke earlier.
No.
Okay, Speaker, may I say Khalil?
I think once you have started, you don't know what is done. Speaker, can you give the platform to the DA?
Speaker, you can tell me when I can start. Ngingaqala, Speaker. Honorable Speaker, can I start?
Yes.
Okay, because there seems to be some confusion there. Thanks, Speaker. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think I'd like to just address the Honourable Premier and Honourable Sibiya first. You know, honourable members, when you paint a picture of a radically transformed life of rural women, you really are shouting into an echo chamber. And the problem with this is that you start to lose track of the reality on the ground. But perhaps it's also a problem because you speed past in your luxury vehicles with tinted out windows and don't actually understand the reality that people are facing on the ground, whether it's food insecurity or child malnutrition, gender-based violence. I think an important part of addressing the problem is actually acknowledging that there is a problem in the first place. And the rural people the rural women of our province do face problems. But when we've become so used to abusing the truth, we also start to believe the lies that we tell. Honourable Speaker, it is a great privilege to address this House today on an issue that is very important and close to my heart.
Honourable Papas.
Yes, Speaker.
I stand up on Rule 52.
Yes.
52B. Can the Speaker take a question? Honourable Papas, the Speaker on the ground, which is Papas.
I can't hear you clearly. Do you want to ask a question from the Speaker, or do you want to ask a question from...
Question to Honourable Papas. Can I ask a question to Honourable Papas?
Let's hear from him then. Honourable Papas, will you take a question?
Honourable Speaker, the ANC Speaker has had 26 years to make her point, and clearly that nothing has happened from that. So no, I will not take a question.
He's not taking the question, so can you continue? Honourable
Thank you,
Papa.
Speaker. Today is important that we recognise ons omas, tatebetu, our grannies and our aunties, who live in the rural areas of our province, and the relationship they have to the development of our society. The contributions that our rural women make, it is also important that we understand the challenges faced by rural women and accept that as leaders, we can do more to ensure their safety, their equality of opportunity, and their dignity. There are many challenges faced by our rural women that they confront every day. Yes, Speaker.
Can you hold on again? There's another hand. Honorable Sonjika.
Sihlalo bengiphakama nje ukuthi ngibuze umhlonishwa ukuthi uyayazi ukuthi apartheid yini.
Awusashi rule, Honorable Sonjika.
Oh, angibuza ukuthi
Can you put your camera on?
Urel 52 ukuthi angawuthatha nombuzo
Can you put your camera on? It looks like he's gone. Honorable Papas, can you continue?
Yes, Speaker. Can I continue? Thank you, Speaker. There are many challenges that our rural women are confronted with every day. Gender-based violence, unemployment, a male-dominated society, to name a few. All of these challenges need our attention, and all of these challenges require us to do more. In many cases, these challenges that are faced by women are exasperated by failed government policies, endemic corruption, and an incapable state. But our rural women know this because they live this experience every single day. And while many of our challenges have roots in our unequal and oppressive past, the failures of 26 years are evident when you watch elderly women collecting water from rivers where their animals drink, when women must give birth in under-resourced maternity wards, when nurses use cell phone torches to provide light, such as at the Mpupumeni clinic, and where arrests and prosecutions of gender-based violence cases are so low that many cases go unreported, just like our rural farm workers, where 23% of cases of rape end in conviction. Mr. Speaker, I would like to speak to you about one particularly important issue faced by rural women. And this is the challenge that is largely unaddressed by government. The challenge is food security. It is no coincidence that the 15th of October marks International Rural Women's Day. This day falls one day before International Food Day. Food production takes place in many rural areas of our country. And this is where so many rural women play a significant, yet under-resourced, underappreciated, and under-supported role. According to the quarterly household survey, more than a quarter of the people in KwaZulu-Natal are classified as food insecure, a state of being without reliable access to sufficient quality and quantities of food. In addition to this, 28.5% of children in KwaZulu-Natal experience stunting due to a lack of nourishment, a truly bleak picture that confronts the women and mothers of our rural areas. So what can we do to support the women who have carried us on their backs, who have toiled in the fields to ensure that we do not go hungry, and endured abusive relationships just so they can keep a roof over our heads? In Zulu religion, Unomhoi and Nomkhubulwane are deities or goddesses of rivers and agriculture, respectively. It is by fate that those beings responsible for the most important aspects of life and sustenance are women. If our forefathers could see the importance of women in agriculture, then why have we failed to do so? I'd like to reiterate what the Honourable Ntuli said. Speaker.
Thank you.
Honourable Speaker, I feel that my time was interrupted and the clock was not stopped because I'm timing myself on this side and it's definitely not the same. So I'd request that the staff please check the time because the clock was clearly not stopped. I still have a minute on my clock.
Only one watch here, not your watch.
Yes, no, your time was stopped. I was checking with the secretary here.
All right, Chairperson, if you say so, but yeah, I think that needs to be reviewed because clearly there's something that's gone wrong there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Honourable Papas. Can we move on now to another speaker from the African National Congress? Honourable Nkonyeni.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Let me greet Honourable Premier and Honourable members of the Executive Council. honorable members of the provincial legislature, members of the public, Sanbonani, good day to you all. Today, being the 15th of October 2020, multitudes of people in different countries are celebrating this International Day. In its resolution of the 18th of December 2007, the United Nations General Assembly declared this day as International Rural Women's Day in recognition of the critical role and contribution of rural women, including indigenous women, in enhancing agricultural and rural development, improving food security, and eradicating rural poverty. The 2020 theme for International Rural Women's Day is Rural Women and Girls Building Climate Resilience. This theme is so relevant in the wake of the devastating effect of the COVID-19 pandemic across the globe and the ever-present detrimental effect of climate change, particularly for those living in the countryside, of whom the majority are rural women. Sihlalo kanye namalungu ahloniphekile kuyinto esingeke saze saphikisana ngayo kakhulu ukuthi ubuso bobubha emhlabeni wonke jikelele yibo abesifazane basemakhaya, ikakhulukazi emazweni asathuthuka njengoba sibona lapha ezwenikazi lase-Afrika. Ngicabanga ukuthi kungenxa yalezi izathu umgwamanda jikelele wenhlangano yezizwe wathatha isinqumo sokuthi onyakeni kube khona nje usuku olulodwa oluqokwayo lapho kutuswa khona igalelo neqhaza labesifazane abahlala endaweni zasemakhaya ekulweni nobubha nokuqinisekisa ukuthi ezolimo ziyasimama kanti futhi nokudla ukhiqizwa ngendlela enesiqinisekiso ukuthi kuyohlala kukhona kungabi khona umuntu ontulayo. In the area where one is deployed in Ilembe district, we have taken a decision to mitigate against climate change, against the negative impact of climate change, thereby promoting organic crop production. Sizotshala ngomquba ukuze sibavikele abantu bakithi, kakhulukazi la abesifazane, abantwana nemindeni yonke nje ekuthini badle ukudla okunemikhiqizo eyama-chemicals. Futhi lokho kuzokwenza ukuthi sibafundise ukuthi bangalokhu beba dependent on i-government all the time. Sizofundisana ngokukhiqiza izimbewu ezibuyiselekayo emhlabathini, indigenous methods of farming, ngoba somlomo njengamanje sesibona imbewu lezi othi uma ufuna ukutshala ngazo ngonyaka olandelayo uthola ukuthi azivumi, kufanele ukuthi njalo kulokhu kuyothengwa izimbewu. Sithi ke cha, azibuyele emasisweni abantu bakithi ababe nazo izimbewu zabo. Sizofundisa abesifazane kanye namantombazana ukwenza izidleke zezimbewu, lokhu esithi ama-seedlings. Sizobafundisa futhi nokufuya ngendlela yokuthi izilwane zingavaleleki kepha zikhululeke uma zizifunela ukudla, lokho kuthiwa yi-free range farming, ngoba siyazi ukuthi lokho futhi inyama yalezo yilwane kusuke kuyinyama enempilo. Izilwane zidla ukudla okunempilo, iy'tshalo, iy'hlahla ezinempilo. Sizobaqeqesha sibambisane namaqolishi kanye nezinye izinhlangano ezinolwazi lokutshala ukudla okunempilo. Njengamanje imikhiqizo yabo laba besifazane esikhuluma ngabo esithi sobaqeqesha, vele sesinazo izindawo lapho ziyodayiswa khona lokhu esithi i-market. Sophinde futhi siyilembe district sesivumelene nomnyango ophathiswe umama uSithole Mloyi ukuthi eLembe district yona district ekuzokhiqizwa kuyona uhlobo lokufuya nokutshala lokhu esikhuluma ngako ngoba sithi azibuyele emasisweni. njengoba isikhathi sihamba ke ngiyafuna nokusho ukuthi sizobe sibafundisa abantu besifazane sisebenza lokho manje ukuzikhiqizela ugesi ukuze omunye bawudayise futhi omunye kube yilowo ozoba abazowusebenzisa bona. Sikwenziswa yini lokho Somlomo? I-district yaseLembe yenye yalawo ma-districts uNdunankulu through i-KZN Economic Council ekwathi wafanele igxile kulento esithi i-mitigation against i-carbon emission. So senza konke ke nje ongakucabanga okumitigator against i-carbon emission. Siyasho ukuthi lo mqondo sesiudayisele ngisho namakhosi ezizwe angaphansi kweLembe Traditional Council kanye nobuholi bomasipala ukuthi bafethu bodadewethu mazibuyele emasisweni ngoba ngalendlela sizokwazi ukuthi si-contribute towards lokho esikubiza ngokuthi sustainable development. Obaba omkhulu babehlakaniphile kakhulu bekhiqiza ukudla okwakwenza bagcina izimbewu ngezinqolobane njengoba namhlanje kungasafani. Sesizithola sithenga imbewu minyaka yonke futhi sesitshala ngama-chemicals amanye awo aqeda umsoco enhlabathini. Sizobuye futhi sifundise abesifazane kanye namantombazana ukutshala kanye nokuvikela amakhambi esintu, herbal medicines. Lendlela abazofundiswa yona izoqinisekisa ukuthi bayasimama bangabe besathembela kakhulu kuhulumeni njengoba sengikushilo. Lokhu ke ngiyathanda Somlomo ukuthi ngisho ukuthi uma amalungu eshamthetho afana nomhlonishwa uPurpose bengakholwa ilokhu esikhuluma ngakho abaye endaweni yaseMambedweni ngaphansi kwakwamaphumulo umasipala wakwamaphumulo bazoyibona lento esikhuluma ngayo ukuthi isiyenzeka already futhi uma sesithula uhlolo lwethu lwe-multi planting season bazobona kahle ukuthi si serious ngalokho esikhuluma ngakho. Honorable Chairperson, it has been an arduous and tortuous journey for many rural women as we actively pursued the realization of the Millennium Development Goals almost 2 decades ago. On achieving some of these MDGs, we changed the course and tack as we built in frameworks to consolidate and sustain the goals that had been achieved. Hence, they took a new shape and format of being Sustainable Development Goals, commonly known as SDGs. Injongo yentuthuko esimeme yokuqala ithi akuthi eminyakeni elishumi ukusuka manje okungu-2030 kube sekubhukuliwe ukuthi kuqedwe ububha emhlabeni wonke jikelele lapho kuziveza khona noma ingayiphi indlela obuziveza ngayo. Le njongo futhi ithi akuqinisekiswe ukuthi abahlwempu nababuthaka kumele bavikelwe kuphinde futhi kwenziwe isiqiniseko sokuthi bayazithola izidingo nqangi kuphinde kusizwe nabantu abakhahlanyezwe isimo sezulu esiguquguqukayo kanye nengcindezi kwezomnotho nasekuhlaleni nesimo semvelo esingesihle nezinhlekelele esizibona mihla namalanga. Nathi singuhulumeni wentando yeningi asizange sisonge izandla kepha kuningi esikwenzile ukuhlangabezana nalama SDGs njengoba sonke siyazi ukuthi eminyakeni eyishumi-nanye eyedlule ngo-2009 sasungula umnyango wezokuthuthukisa indawo zasemakhaya kuzwelonke naseyifundazweni. Among the interventions, the ANC-led government came up with the cushion that had affected rampantly and grinding poverty that is prevalent in rural areas, including the social safety net in the form of the grants like the Child Support Grant, the National School Nutrition Program, Foster Care Grant, Old Age Grant, and other grants that are aimed at assisting our people. Zisekhona izingqinamba esibhekene nabesifazane endaweni zasemakhaya njengoba kumele babamba bahambe amabanga beyofuna amanzi. Sekuphelile somlomo. Oh, ngiyaxolisa. Siyabonga kakhulu.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are now going to get a response, the Premier, to the comments by the parties. Over to you, Honorable Zigalala.
Honorable Chair, firstly, I believe that it would be befitting and compelling that one take this moment to salute one of the outstanding women who have made a great contribution in the development of women in our country, Dr. Vuyokazi Mahlati, who passed on a day before yesterday. She had played a great role in the agricultural development and directly in the development of rural women, a social activist of note. Honorable Speaker, I would like to appreciate the contribution by Honorable Sotobe of the ANC, Honorable Sbia, by taking us through the historical evolution and where we come from, and reminding us the difficulties faced by women of this country, especially in rural areas, due to lack of services and even clinics and facilities and things like ambulance. And he went further to account on what have been done to improve the conditions of women in rural areas. Honorable Chair, let me take this opportunity to correct Honorable Madlopa Mthetho. In the same event where we participated, we were together with her. Mayor Mabika stood up and said, women from Ejozini are now supplying Boxer cash and carry because of the government led by the ANC, because of what we provided as RASET. Now to stand up and say, no, we deliver and we go with things is wrong. Even tractors are there, and if she would want us to prove that, we can. Let me further tell this House, Honorable Chair, that women of the rural area of Umkhanyakude are supplying Ilembe Enterprise with 1,000 crates of tomatoes and 950 bags of potatoes on weekly basis, Honorable Chair. Honorable Ntuli, thanks for your contribution, narrating the plight of women like women of our country. As a daughter of those who were oppressed, unfortunately, the space you are in, we understand, does not allow you to do more. But thanks for the words you have made, and we can see the challenges you are facing in the space you are in. Honorable Mlotshwa, we take your words. However, we want to be clear. If there is a woman who is abused, we have always taken action as the ANC-led government and then come and make unfounded statements here. Honorable Stolemloyi, thanks a lot for taking us through the interventions of the department in the development of rural women, as well as the history that of our country, the accession of former President O.R. Tambo. Thank you. Honorable Takur Lashpansi, thanks indeed. RASET must cover all, must address the plight of women in colored and Indian communities, and I think we're committed on that. Honorable Pagati, the call to push departments to ensure proper implementation is appreciated. Thanks a lot. Honorable Papas, Honorable Mangele, thank you. I think the plight of women we are presenting. It's what we need to take, but we need to ensure implementation. Honorable Nkonyeni, thanks for taking us through the great work that is being done to resuscitate and to profile indigenous knowledge. For a long time, indigenous knowledge has been undermined. Thanks a lot, and for number of contributions you have made. Honorable Papas, in your own thinking and in your mind, there exists a possibility of South Africa that could still regress into a situation where male domination based on liberalism will prevail. I wish to tell you now that will never happen. Honorable Chair, I want to affirm that the government in place will continue making all strides to transform this country for the better and to affirm the leadership of women. Honorable Papas, let me refer you to what Sol Plaatje in his classic native land in South Africa said in conceptualizing the impact of the 1913 Land Act. Sol Plaatje wrote, and I quote, "The deceased child had to be buried, but where, when, and how? This young wandering family decided to dig a grave under a cover of the darkness of that night when no one was looking, and in that crude manner, the dead child was interred, and interred amid fear and trembling, as well as tropes of a torturing or anguish. In a stolen grave, lest the propriety of sport or any of his servants should surprise them in the act. Even criminals dropping straight from the gallows have an undisputable claim to 6 feet of ground on which to rest their criminal remains. But under the cruel oppression of the Natives Land Act, the little child, whose only crime is that God didn't make them white, are sometimes denied that right in their ancestral home, close quote. I must say today to you that such experience will never exist. Women in farm areas, families in farm areas, be it Africans or what, they also deserve dignity and respect. All over, women must enjoy and be accorded respect that is given to all in this country. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Asbonge, Honorable Premier, which is bringing us to the end of this debate. We are now going to move on to the debate on the commemoration of the Heritage Month. Can I be supplied with the speaker? Ilanja? Oh, ngicela noza. Okay. We need to adjourn for lunch for 40 minutes. There will be snacks served. So what time do we have to be back here so that they 13:40. Honorable Kwara, we have to teach one make to 13. I ngalolu sonto le.
Are we getting deliveries, Slalo?
Huh? Okay.
40 minutes bonke abantu behle class.
Uvela aphendulanga ngani uNtombi ebuza uthi siyadilivelwa nithina wapha nabafazi basemsebenzini manje.
Impela amadoda asemsebenzini asinabantu abazosiphekela.
Amadoda asemsebenzini asinabantu abazosiphekela. Amadoda asemsebenzini ngempela wentombi. Nathi sifuna ama-deliveries.